We're back in France and the race for the title is on a knife edge. Points are at a premium for the 30 elite combinations, who include Olympic gold medalist, world number one, and the current series leader. It's all to play for here at the historic Haras De Jardy. This is eventing reinvented. This is the Event Rider Masters.
This weekend, the International Eventing Show here at Haras De Jardy hosts some of the world's best. Located just outside of Versailles, this famous stade with its incredible architecture and centuries-old stables, along with the top-class facilities here, mean that we have been in for a real treat. 7 of the world's top 20 ranked riders made the lineup, 7 former leg winners and 7 different nations represented in the field. It is a pivotal point in the series and we cannot wait to see how the action concludes here this afternoon. A very warm welcome back to Jardy. We hope that you've enjoyed all of the action so far, the dressage yesterday and of course the show jumping, which really did shuffle that leaderboard a little bit earlier on today. Delighted to say, joining me in the studio, double world champion Blythe Tate, who's been with us throughout the weekend, and also Echo Ratings is down. We've got you out of your corner. You're going to give us all the facts and the figures on the cross country.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. I think, I think from a time point of view, we've talked about it a little bit. It can get tough. It can sometimes, in the last couple of years, it hasn't been for the Event Rider Masters legs. And from a jumping point of view, look, Nicole, we'll get lots of chances to talk about it. For me, on numbers, it's one that I would be expecting a high jumping clear rate.
High jumping clear rate. Well, we're going to come on to that a little bit later on, but let's just remind ourselves, because a few weeks ago we were in Arville in Belgium for leg 3 in the series, and we always know the Event Rider Masters series is dramatic, but nothing could have prepared us for this. Chris Burton, who was in for a big series challenge here, he was the defending champion in Arville, and he had 20 penalties. He had 11 penalties, for a broken device on the cross country, and that meant that he finished in 3rd place. So Tim Price took the win, and let's see how the series leaderboard shapes up after leg 3. So halfway through the series, and it is Chris Burton out in front. Only 8 points though ahead of Janelle Price, Bill Levitt, Sarah Cohen in equal 3rd at the moment as well. And don't forget that Chris Burton had to withdraw here, having had a little bit of travel sickness for Lawtown Chloe, so he didn't make the lineup. Janelle Price, Bill Levitt, Sarah Cohen, Tim Price, Laura Kaulitz, all in the top 10 coming forward to the cross country. We're going to come on to the action here in Jardy very shortly, because they are all very much in contention, and that leaderboard is going to look very, very different in a couple of hours' time. So that is how the series looks coming into us here in Jardy, but of course we've already had a couple of phases and we're going to come on to the dressage in just a moment. But if you want to get involved in the broadcast and maybe you want to win yourself one of these branded Event Rider Masters bottles, then keep a lookout for the Event Rider Masters Wilbury Wonder Pony Mastersberry, who will be somewhere hidden in the broadcast, and you can tag at Event Rider Masters for that when you spot them on screen. But also, if you want to get involved between legs, then you can do so by joining the Event Rider Masters Platinum Club. You can find out more information at eventridermasters.tv, and they've got 2 really exciting yard visits coming up, all the behind the scenes action. Laura Kaulitz on the 23rd of July and Bill Levitt on the 11th of August. So don't forget that you can join on the website eventridermasters.tv and get some really exclusive content as well. But that is how you can get involved throughout between legs. You can also get involved with the Echo Rating Stacks game. We'll get Derm to tell us about that a little bit later on, and of course give generously to Hannah's Wilbury Wonder Pony charity as well. But this weekend, yesterday, it was all about the dressage, the style, the grace, the elegance. We always know that this first phase here is important. We've seen some really low scores here over the last couple of years. Let's just see what happened.
Haras De Jardy sets the stage for leg 4 of the Event Rider Masters as no less than 30 elite combinations representing 8 different nations line up at this pivotal point in the 2019 series.
Well, Alcatraz was a new horse to me last year. He's stepped up to this level just recently. He did a fairly good job in Arville, I think, and we learned a lot from that. We've just tweaked a few things and hopefully we'll put in a better performance here and feature a little bit higher up the leaderboard on the final day.
Pebbles, quick look, won at Bramham. She posted a fantastic cross-country round there. At Arville, for whatever reason, she wasn't with me. She seems to be on great form, so let's hope we can get past fence 5 this time.
Day 1 and the dressage got underway in front of Jardy's beautiful orangery, the world's best hungry to get their competition off to a winning start. Most capped ERM competitors Bill Levitt and Shannondale Titan once again showed off their dressage pedigree with a fantastic score of 25.3, third after this opening test. Gemma Tattersall and Quick Look arrive in Jardy as Equi-Ratings favourites, and the combination didn't disappoint. An excellent test earned the pair 25.1 from the judges and second on the overnight leaderboard. But the standout test of the day was Colonel Thibaut Villette and King de Brieux.
The contact is beautiful.
It is going to be France that go to the top of the leaderboard. Huge round of applause from the home crowd.
The duo scored an outstanding 23.2 in front of the home crowd, handing the French rider the leg 4 lead going into show jumping.
Well, Thibaut Villette, our leader after the dressage yesterday, coming into show jumping this morning. Blythe, just a word on his test, because it really did deserve to be top of the table.
Yeah, it was my pick. I thought it was very forward, nice, light ease of movements, yet with plenty of expression. It was a really nice test.
Really beautiful. And one of the most experienced combinations in the field. Dressage has predominantly been really important here. Are we seeing the same in 2019?
I think so. It's an interesting one. I guess, you know, Blythe and Nicole, when we were talking about this across the other shows, when we were at Chatsworth, we were able to focus really heavily on the time penalties. When we went to Arville, we were able to focus really highly on the jumping cross country. It stayed at the 50% rate. At this particular venue, it just so happens that the influence seems to be less on the jumping in both phases, which means that makes your first phase a key one. We've seen great scores here, and we saw them again yesterday. That's one of the top 5 scores that we've ever seen at the venue, which is currently our leader.
Currently our leader. Well, he was our leader going into the show jumping, which all took place in the arena just behind us this morning. Now, Thibaut Villette, he kept the poles up and he jumped a faultless clear round, Blythe, even though he lived a little dangerously with the time.
Yeah, well, the time was very tight, and there was a few people just over and a few people just in, and Thibaut kept on the right side of the penalty, so he went to the wrong side of it, didn't he? He had a few time faults.
He did. He had 1.6 time faults, and that was as many as he could afford to stay ahead of Gemma Tattersall, who also jumped clear in second. Bill Levitt was in third going into the show jumping, and there was heartbreak for him in this phase because he had a pole down, Blythe. The final line, the penultimate fence went, and he was absolutely gutted.
Yeah, he was. He explained himself that he went forward with one stride less to the parallel on the curves, and then that made the horse a little strong. He had to bring him back for the vertical, and down it came.
Down it came, so expensive. Well, one lady who did produce a very good clear round in the show jumping was Sarah Cohen and Treason in the series hunt as well here. You said if Sarah Cohen jumps clear, she should be on the podium this afternoon.
You know the work we've been doing with the Eventing Prediction Centre, and it's there on equiratings.com. It's on eventridermasters.tv, and you can actually look. What's really interesting is you can look at the effect that every phase had on the final win chance or podium chance. And Gemma remains the favourite, so we said that before we came in. But right now, so it's 23% for Gemma, it's 21% for Sarah Cohen.
Well, let's take a look at that full leaderboard after the first 2 phases in competition. Thibaut Villette out in front, nothing in hand, ahead of Gemma Tattersall in second. Felix Vogue put in a really strong clear round in the show jumping to move him up a couple of places to third. And then the likes of Sarah Cohen, Tim Price, Laura Kaulitz and Jireg Licoz all recording clear rounds to make moves up the leaderboard. Gravine de Rev, Janelle Price looking for series points. Emily King Brookley also falling victim to a few time penalties. And news just coming in that Karim Legoire, Punch Delask, who were in 17th position coming forward to the cross-country, have withdrawn. So they won't be coming forward to the cross-country, but some very good French performances from the home crowd. And then a little bit further on down the leaderboard, some disappointment for Sydney Deflay and Tresor Mail. And actually, I think Sydney also withdrawing and not coming forward to the cross-country. Izzy Taylor, another to be disappointed with her show jumping round. So that is how things look, but just 22 seconds covering the top 20 on the leaderboard. Now, if the time does work out to be tight here, then that will be really tough and tricky and influential, and there'll be a lot of movement on that leaderboard. Well, one lady who we were really looking forward to seeing coming into the Event Rider Masters series here in Jardy was Emily King, who's had a tough time with her top ride Brookley being off a little bit over the last couple of years. Let's find out more.
As a kid, I've always said I wanted to be world number one, Olympic champion, Rolex Grand Slam winner, the whole Shazam. So I'm sticking to that, and it's ridiculously hard, but I'm going to keep my goals set high and keep working hard. I first started riding, I think, before I could walk. It's my main passion. I live and breathe it, wake up every day wanting to do it. And I've grown up obviously around the horses my whole life, with Mum being who she is, and she never forced it upon me or was like a pushy horsey mum. I've loved it from the start, and it's never crossed my mind to do anything else. I was lucky enough to go to Beijing, Athens and London Olympics. It's amazing to have had an insight to that before having the pressure sort of personally. I mean, it's going to take a while to get remotely close to Mum's accolades, but I will try, exactly. You've got to enjoy the good times when they happen, because with the horses they are ridiculously, unpredictable. So just keep smiling. I think it's a very solid piece of advice from her. I'd say those two horses, Mr. Hi-Ho and Brookley, were my first two top horses to take me from, novice up to the top. But Brookley, my first horse to ride at 5-star, and first horse to go to badminton. So I think he'd be, don't tell the others, but I think he'd be the most special. He has quite an unusual jumping technique, and if he is in a bit of a sticky situation at a fence, if I haven't got a good distance on the jump, he would stop if you weren't perfect, and he would have an occasional fall. I had to ride very well for it to happen, which is it makes you definitely have to get your act together, and that's what taught me a huge amount. But along the way we did have some heavy fall. Had a heavy fall at the Junior Europeans, and then there were other fall at badminton. And I think that's also a huge part of becoming a professional rider, is you're bound to have these big falls, and it's mentally getting through them. I think personally that's the hardest thing. It's just a mental game, so you have to just really try and be on top of it. So it took me a while, but I'm back on now, I hope.
She really is a very remarkable young lady, forging her own path in the sport of eventing despite some very, very big family shoes to fill. And it really is an extreme sport. As you can hear from Emily, it is the thrills and the spills of eventing, and 3 disciplines, but cross-country in particular, as I say, extreme.
It's difficult to find a top eventing rider that is good in all 3 phases or has exactly the right character for all 3 phases. In the same way, we're looking for the horse that's good in all 3 phases, and it's rare, it's hard to find.
I guess the sport at the very highest level requires a particular type of competitor. You have to be a little bit ruthless, a little bit selfish.
It takes discipline, determination, almost a little bit of stubbornness runs in with that determination. I think that you just have that will that you're never going to give up.
Yeah, the risks and dangers and little pitfalls and dips and things that you need to watch out for in our sport are many. They're vast, they're varied. We, at the end of the day, are riding very expensive horses, and with that comes a lot of interest, if you like, from the owners of those horses, from other people that would be slightly interested in those horses.
Highs and lows, thrills and spills, risks and rewards. Event riding is an extreme sport and not for the faint-hearted.
I had a pretty horrific fall back in 2013 and I was knocked out, was in a coma for a week, I had a punctured lung, lacerated liver, broken ribs, broken shoulder, broken cheekbone, and I guess the biggest and the only long-lasting thing was I lost the sight in my right eye. Luckily it still moves and no one would know, but that was something that I had to adapt to.
There's a lot of places where you're at risk of injuring yourself in the equestrian sport. One that really stands out was the end of last year, an event called Little Downham. As I was coming into the fence on my inexperienced advanced horse, we had a difference of judgment where to take off. Last minute, emergency brakes went out. We both went into the log. He took the log on his neck and I went down underneath him in the ditch, which kind of left him coming on top of me. So he wriggled around a little bit on top, and then he got up and trotted away, no problems, thank crikey for him. But I was down there feeling a little bit worse for wear. So once they checked out that I was all okay to move, I got up and crunch, crunch underneath my back protector in the side here. So a couple of ribs down at that point and a bit of a twisted knee. But yeah, it's just part and parcel. If you're going to do this, you're going to have to take a few knocks.
Take a few knocks. That is a typical event rider way of saying it, because it is a tough sport and everybody's had a big falls and they really do respect each other, and the camaraderie in eventing is quite remarkable. Blythe, looking forward to the cross country today. Pierre Michelet, our course designer, what were your thoughts when you went out and walked it?
I think it's a typical Pierre track. It's very technical. It's not the biggest of tracks. I think a fairly inviting start, but a very intense and strong finish. So I think there could be a few mistakes. The time always encourages people to take risks, and it's a track that I don't think you can take a risk on. I think it's very technical.
There's a few big questions, particularly coming up at the end as well. And just quickly, the time here has been a little bit easier than expected in previous years over the last couple of runnings of the Event Rider Masters.
Yeah, it's nearly 37%. So it's last couple of years, so it's been the highest, the easiest time to get of the Event Rider Masters.
The Event Rider Masters. Well, we will watch this space this afternoon, but just what is in store for our riders? Let's take a look at this afternoon's cross country.
For leg 4, we're in France, and that means one thing: a forward, bold course set by Olympic designer Pierre Michelet. He reverses the direction from 2018, and thus one of the early challenges is the ERM water at 6 and 7. A pair of houses into the splash should jump easily for those in gear. Some groundwork creates relief from the flat, fast terrain and makes a real question of the Wilbury complex at 11 and 12 AB. 11 is a skinny box perched on the mound before a smooth serpentine should let them pick up the hay cart and second skinny at 12 A and B. They need to keep close to the advertising boards to have the space to attack the quick double test of angled houses into the second Event Rider Masters water at 16. A full minute of galloping later, it's time for the SAP water. Here there's a roll top related to a drop into the water over a boat, then a step up and an attacking distance to the 2014 World Championships fish. With home in mind, the last major effort will be the Chicane Complex at 22. The first element is again set on a small mound to increase the question before they need to curve over a trio of skinny arrowheads. It's critical that they have enough energy and rideability left at this point, or penalties await. A thoroughbred test for the world's best as they hope to achieve the 3,485 metres distance and cross the DHL finish line inside the 6 minutes and 7 seconds optimum to decide who will be the victor of the Jardy leg of the Event Rider Masters.
Well, we all think that this cross-country track is perhaps a little bit tougher here than the last couple of years. We're looking forward to seeing how our riders tackle it. But just a few minutes away now from our pathfinders, Tom Mcewen, CHF Kaulitz, getting out on course. Why don't we go and hear from the man who actually is in charge of this afternoon's cross-country? Pierre Michelet is with Hannah.
Yes, he is, Nicole, and what a tough track he has built here in Jardy. Pierre, you are no stranger to building tracks. You have done Rio 2016 Olympics, and now you're here building this course. Tell me a little bit about what has influenced you to build a course like this.
Jardy is a place that I know very well because I'm working here maybe for 20 years. And we have already done ARM last year and the year before also. So we have, it's a flat area, so we have to put a sophisticated distance and combination and such. We have a very good field of riders, and it's a very important competition. So would be very difficult is to win. So we put some question where the riders have to find the good line, the good speed, the good curve for jumping the combination, and this is difficult to analyze very well the course, I think.
And talking to you beforehand, you talked about how there wasn't one particular question that was more challenging than the others. It's the combination of all of the questions that are out there, the big gallops in between, the very fast-paced, flat, course that you've built, but also the tight time.
Yes, but I think that the most difficult is to put all together and to solve all the combination and all the type of fences, because I think that the time will not be easy to reach.
Well, we'll find out. We're going to stay with you, Pierre, and see the first rider come through and see what they make of the SAP water jump, which is just behind us. But for sure, Nicole, it looks pretty challenging out here.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing just who can take on this cross-country track. This is the running order. Tom Mcewen, CHF Kaulitz, who come forward on their dressage, scored just outside the top 20, will be first to go, and actually could still be well in touch with the leading pack. Other ones to watch from that session: Nicholas Bakura, Lord Sostakovic went clear in Arville just a few weeks ago. Michael Young, Kriba Cooley, watch out for them. That horse looking for its first completion at the level. Maxime Livio, Opium de Verrières, one of the most experienced combinations in the field, and Alex Bragg, the defending champion, will be coming forward in this as well. Janelle Price, Gravine Darev, and Bill Levitt, Shannondale, Titan, looking for big series points here. And here we are, the top 8 in reverse order of merit. Durek Lacoste, Esprit de la Loge, 6th in Arville a few weeks ago. The likes of Tim Price, Sarah Cohen, favourites for a podium finish here, and Thibaut Villette, our leader after the first 2 phases, will be the last to go out on course. Nothing in hand as things stand over second place Gemma Tattersall. So the reverse order cross country here in the Event Rider Masters. We're a couple of minutes now away from getting underway, and delighted to have you both with us. Let's just have a look, Derm, in terms of ones that we can watch in the early few horses, who will be giving us an indication of that time perhaps?
We'll go back to the time, but I think as a way to ride a track, I think, probably the cross-country rider for me in Britain over the last couple of years, male, is Tom Mcewen. I think he's a real standout talent, the way he can take a horse around. I think this horse has been really, really impressive this weekend. We know that she's young, but I think she is absolutely one for the future. I think from the very start, that will be one. I think you've put up on the podcast this week Quintana P. So Anna Katerina comes, I think, probably about 4th round out. And even before that, the second round is Izzy Taylor. You're talking about top cross-country riders. I think those early ones will give us a really good feel for the course. The speed happens a little bit. Later, but Quintana is probably a good test on speed.
A good test. Well, Anna Katerina Vogel, who's coming forward actually in 26th position on a score of 42.5. Now, in terms of the questions that are out there on Course Blythe, what would you say to viewers at home should be looking out for?
Well, the first question is fence 4. It's a kind question, but it's the first place. I think there could be mistakes, and it builds all the way around. The second water is, in my opinion, more difficult than the first, and the most difficult combination of them all is 22 at the very end. It's a 4-part combination, 3 skinny fences on a serpentine. I certainly would want to have that behind me.
Well, we will be looking forward to seeing how Tom Mcewen tackles the course. He's going under starter's orders. CHF Kaulitz, inexperienced at the level. Wilbury Wonder Pony strapped on Tom's back along for the ride, and Tom actually was on the podium with Figaro Van Het Broekhoff at Chatsworth a little bit earlier on this year. But this horse has been so impressive this weekend, Blythe. She's a real superstar for the future.
Yes, she's only just come to this level. She's got a very experienced man on top, but I know he's excited about her future, and I would think that this time next year we could see some really competitive performances from her.
Well, a couple of really nice inviting fences to get them underway. The log at 1, the table at 2, then up the bank just to the right-hand side of our studio, actually. Go to a big brush down a fairly steep bank, then swinging right-handed. And then it'll be the white garden rails. The question at 4A and B, Blythe, that you spoke about a moment ago. Talk us through this.
Yeah, I mean, you get a long straight run at them, and then they are on quite a steep angle and quite a long distance between them. So you've got to be committed and go forward like that. You could just see the mare have a little look and then reach for the second one. And, you know, a green horse like that will have a second look. I think the more experienced horses will cope with it better.
And Tom actually really gave her the confidence there, didn't he? Because she was very unsure for just a second, but she responded beautifully, stayed true to her line. So Tom Mcewen, our pathfinder, comes to the Event Rider Masters Water, the house at 6 and 7. Now, these are very much related, Blythe, but they are separately numbered by Pierre, so they could turn a circle should they so wish.
It could, but then they won't be on the podium. It'll just take too long. I think the distance between those two is slightly kinder, but the angle is narrower, so the line has to be perfect.
Well, Tom Mcewen can really open up on the accelerator around the outside of the racetrack as he goes to the rail at 10. Deserves respect, fairly upright that rail, and then he'll come back to one of the first major questions on course, Wilbury's combination at 11 and 12. And he doesn't look to really be chasing the clock, Blythe, giving the horse a good confidence.
No, I don't think she's quite ready to be, pressurised at this stage, and he'll be looking for a really confident round. This next combination he's coming to, you have to come up a rise to a very wide box. Sorry, is it the one after this? Yes. A very wide box that you have to be absolutely straight to, and then you have to make an immediate turn, run down to a big table, and then you haven't finished. There's another wide box.
And they're very, very wide, aren't they? I mean, I stood out with my arms right out and just about could touch the sides. He's put the 5 strides in.
Yeah, I personally think the 5 is going to work better because you can't angle the first fence. You have to jump it straight. I'm sure the bold horses will make 4 easily, but I'm picking the majority beyond 5.
Well, Tom Mcewen easily done there, clear of the ditch palisade at 13 as well. So a couple of nice inviting fences for him before another of the major questions on course. And you can just see that a complete turn back on himself, Blythe. That is what takes up the time here, isn't it?
Absolutely. You can't just freewheel around those corners. You have to regain control, and they just slow you down.
Well, Tom going on to the corner at 15, and this really does deserve respect because you've got to pick your line by the side of the bank and then come. He's actually going round the bank, so he's going to take a much more direct route. I think we might see some cutting inside a tighter line, but he takes that very easily, gives the horse a lovely ride.
I mean, personally, I think I'd take that route as well because you get the chance to show the horse the problem.
Do you think later, though, we may see riders taking a few risks?
Well, they're going to have to if they want to be on the podium, so yes.
Here comes the second of those waters that bounce in. 15 seconds down on the clock into the water. Would you say that the first half of the course, Blythe, is slightly easier time-wise in that you're not going to be able to make up as much time in the second half?
Well, I think the second half of the course gets quite technical. It gets very intense. So, yes, I think if you're going to be down on the clock at the beginning, then I think you're going to be down on the clock throughout. And again, that could be taken on 3 very forward strides, but I think 4 on the turn like that is just a little bit less risky. And if we could come from the right-hand side, you'd be able to go on the 3 strides, but we come very much from the left. So I think the 4 strides is going to be the common theme there as well.
Well, CHF Kaulitz, Tom Mcewen making light work of Pierre Michelet's cross-country track so far. They've just over a minute to get home, so they will be running into some time penalties already well down on the clock, but we'll confirm that for you as they progress towards the end of the track.
I think one of the really interesting things, you mentioned the inexperience and you know, still just stepping up to the level, but this is we're only on 10 international runs for this horse, and they're only their second ever time. You know, they were at Houghton Hall. They've been in the 4-star short there. They've jumped clear everywhere they've been, but looking at their record, it's been a really nice progression through the phases. And you know, they're still going to be seeing some of these types of questions and fences for the first time. So what's interesting watching this round is watching Tom being able to coax this mare around and being able to say.
We saw how green she was at fence number 4, and now she's looking really confident. So this, I would think that Tom would be thrilled.
Beautifully clear. That angled brush at the second element really is at a very acute angle. And then this is the question, Blythe, that you said it is the final question on course, and it's one of the toughest.
Yeah, and I think unlike some of the other combinations where I've suggested that maybe the extra stride was the way to go, this one I think you have to be very positive, and I think you have to stay committed, which is what Tom is doing. He's gone on the 3 strides, 3 again, and then this one hides just around the corner, and you couldn't have wished for it to go any better, to be honest.
Well, Tom Mcewen showing us how this course should be jumped. He's going to have time penalties. The 0.4 of a penalty for every second over the time certainly clocks up very quickly, but he's put in a foot-perfect round in terms of his jumping as he comes to the sheep feeder finale at 24. Clears it very well, goes through the DHL finish to complete 33 seconds over, 13.2 time, finishes on 48.3.
Well, it's very early. It's only one round, but if I thought that looked very calm, collected, and it's a huge accolade to Tom. And we're going back to Izzy now, but also I would say huge accolade to Tom. But I don't expect that to challenge, from what we've seen there, some of the horses who we're talking about, you know, being to Olympic Games. Back to Izzy.
Well, Izzy Taylor out on course with Spring Power. And things did not go to plan for this combination in the show jumping. 5 poles fell and a couple of time penalties as well. So Izzy not in contention after that. And Izzy just giving the horse a really good confidence building run. Coming to the corner. And just, didn't quite get it right. Blythe. Izzy didn't have any chance of staying in the plate there.
No, I mean, she had the line right, but the downhill approach is very unbalancing. She came a little bit deep, and the horse had to make a big effort to get out of the way, and it just tipped Izzy off the side.
Izzy off in hot pursuit of Spring Power, who absolutely none the worse were, and Izzy, good to see her up on board so quickly after that tumble. As next away from the start, Tiziana Rellini and Tubler de Rouen. Combination, one of 2 Swiss combinations in the field, 37.5 their starting score, just 1 pole down, a couple of time penalties in the show jumping to add for them. She's away clear of the first, and we'll be looking to head on up the bank to the brush that comes up at 3. Tiziana Rellini making her Event Rider Masters debut here this weekend. Pops that very nicely, disappears out of sight down the bank, but very quickly back round to the right-hand side, just taking a little bit of extra time. Coming to those white rails at 4A and B.
Very nice.
She's on a very respectable starting score of 37.5 on her Event Rider Masters debut as she comes to the first water. Taking the angle on the 1 stride, easily clear through both elements there. So Tiziana looks to be pushing a little bit quicker than perhaps Tom a little bit earlier on. Well, Izzy Taylor, good to see her walking away with Spring Power after that tumble. And we'll get the opportunity to see this again. Talk us through it, Blythe.
Well, I think just the downhill approach didn't help, and the horse and rider both came too close, and in fairness, the horse tried to avoid a fall and jumped out to the side Izzy being Izzy was very committed, and she was going straight over, and
He was jumping it either way.
They went both in different directions.
Well, good to see them up on their feet, and I'm sure we'll see them back in an Event Rider Masters leg again, but not Izzy's weekend here. As Untitled Chapter goes on to the outskirts, the big rail down at 10. And then she'll come back to this combination 11 and 12 A and B, the Wilbury Wonder Pony combination. We saw Tom go through here foot perfect on the 5 strides at Blythe.
Yep, and I also was lucky enough to see on the monitor Izzy go through there on 5 strides as well. It looked very nice.
Just came up a little bit shorter for her.
Yeah, I mean, you could go a little bit wider in your serpentine and give the horse a little bit more room, but I think she did well.
Well, swings back left-handed on herself and goes to the rail oxer at 14, and then it'll be that corner at 15 that we saw Izzy fall at a few moments ago. But a long run here, the opportunity to just open up on that accelerator, pick up on a bit of time, and we'll get a clock check on her as she comes to the Event Rider Masters water very shortly. Tiziana actually coming that inside route that we spoke about earlier, Blythe.
I mean, it is a little bit shorter. It just opens up the corner for the potential for a run out a little bit more, because you can't get quite as straight. But that was very well done.
Well, Tiziana is going exceptionally well, and as she comes to the water, she's going to be about on target for time as well. She needs to be here with 2:21 on the clock, so she's where she needs to be. Now, this is going to be a really good indication as to that optimum time of 6:07. As waiting down at the start, and now underway, DSP Quintana P, Anna Katharina Vogel. Combination that are particularly impressive in the jumping phases on their Event Rider Masters debut. Quickly clear of the first. No problems at those first couple of easier obstacles, designed particularly to get riders into their rhythm. Give them a good confidence building start.
And then this fence is designed to slow you down, a little sharp turn and then into space.
Jumps very well. As Tiziana, Rellini and Trouble de Rouet are coming to the water. Let's go down to Hannah and watch them through here with the course designer.
Pierre, how do you think the course is riding so far?
Yes, I think it's riding very well. And I always saw very good jumps, and it's for me it looks easier than I was thinking. But we will see. I think the time will stay challenging and make the difference. And if they want to go too fast, they will take more risk and probably run out somewhere. But we'll see.
We will see indeed. Certainly lots of action so far out here, Nicole.
Well, Tiziana did a great job through the water as Anna Katharina Vogel goes into the far side of the course, clear of the first of the waters. So Anna Katharina now has a long run down round that far side of the course. The horse is pricked, eating up this track from Pierre Michelet so far. Just had to back off the Chicane a little bit there, Blythe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice galloping fence, and she did keep the pace up, but I would have said that was not too bad.
Well, here comes Tiziana Rellini towards home. The clock is close. She's not going to quite make the time, but she's not going to be far over. She'll go to the top of the live leaderboard as she clears the last and goes home just a few seconds over the time. 9 in total, 3.6 time penalties, finishes on 41.1, and that is the target to beat at the moment.
I think, you know, you picked out this combination during the week, and I think you're right. It's going to be a really interesting one from a time point of view. I think we've had our first indicator there that it feels
I mean, she kept her pace up all the way, but she wasn't flustered, and I think that there'll be a few that will make time.
I think this particular DSP Quintana P with Anna Katarina is one that, you know, we've seen make the time in
Marbach.
Yeah, but all, you know, and more, you know, huge amount of venues, and again through the different levels. So I would say not that experienced at this level of the sport. I think Marbach, and they went to Lemulen, although I don't think they did the cross country there, or I think they may have retired cross country at Lemulen. But what I would say on this is we've seen speed all across their career, so this is another opportunity to get a marker.
It's taking the outside line to the corner.
It does allow you to keep travelling though, Blythe, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and it lets the horse sight the problem from further away, and therefore they read it better, and it's just a little bit safer.
Well, she's actually about on a par with where Tiziana was coming to this water, so she's about on target as things stand at the moment. Maybe a second or so down. She is spot on at where she wanted to be. Anna-Katharina Vogel as ready to go away from the start. It is Tom Crisp and Liberty and Glory. This mare, 6th at Po 5-star last autumn even, completed Badminton this spring, and very good dressage, 33.8. Tom delighted with the mare, personal best at the level, and an excellent clear round over the coloured poles this morning as well. She has a wonderful expression, Blythe, on her face, doesn't she?
Very
She looks like
enthusiastic.
she loves her job. Less enthusiastic about the dressage, perhaps, but the jumping absolutely adores it.
I don't blame her.
Well, here comes Anna-Katharina Vogel to the final water, the third of the 3 opportunities for horses to get their feet wet. Talk us through this, Blythe, because we saw it with Pierre. It's a tough question.
It is. It's quite a big corner into the water, and the problem is you could get a little bit to the left and then have to move out to find your line here. That's quite a steep angle and quite a forward stride, so you really need to be going forward to the bank. And I think just keeping out in the water and making the turn in the water is the way to go.
Well, beautifully done through there for Anna-Katharina, and she was spot on where she wanted to be time-wise as well. Tom Crisp passing in the other direction, Liberty and Glory, enthusiastically into the water. First of the waters at 6 and 7.
He looks to be moving along quite quickly.
He's not hanging around, and she's on a very competitive score of 33.8, so was in the top 20 coming forward, but a fast clear would see him really move up that leaderboard. She is motoring as she goes on to the Chicane at the 9th. Liberty and Glory, Tom Crisp, but that long run around the outside of the racetrack goes round right-handed to the rail at 10. Easily done there, and then can open up on that accelerator again as she comes to the big question. The big box brush up and swings right-handed. Nicely done through there, Blythe.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, the 5 and the 5. We will see some on 4.
Well, just over the time, 2.8 time, Anna-Katharina Vogel and DSP Quintana P. So they finish on 45.3, go second at the moment. So we've had a couple of time penalties so far. Blythe, do you think it's achievable?
Do think it's achievable. I haven't seen many horses through the second to last combination, but it appears they're jumping it really well, which is a credit to the rider's training.
Tom having a super ride with Liberty and Glory so far, and he's coming to the corner. We'll see if he cuts inside the bank. He looks to be doing so.
Yep.
And nicely done. Didn't waste a second there, and he is good on the time so far as well. So this is going to be a really good indication, Blythe, because actually we've seen a couple of people on target as they get to this water, and then the time bleeds from them slightly in the second half of the course.
That's right, but I think he started probably the most positive of anyone. Again, you've just got to slow down for the turn here, and then ride positively forward, because that's quite a strong bounce. It doesn't look much, but it's quite big.
It is big. A little bit of vocal encouragement for Liberty and Glory, homebred by the Crisp family. Next to go from the start, it is Matthew Kiempa and Grand Supreme for Poland. Didn't have the easiest of times in the show jumping this combination, looking to put that behind them on the cross country now. Clearer of the first. And he's not set out that quickly, perhaps because of those penalties he had in the show jumping, but looking for a more steady round, perhaps.
Yeah, and he's just settling into his rhythm, and he can pick up the pace a little bit later. This one here, you really do have to come quietly around the turn, and then we ask the horses to jump into space, so we call
Thrust exercise.
Yeah.
Well, Tom Crisp, Liberty and Glory at the last of the waters, good on time. So this could be our first combination to make the time, and if it is, he will set the target. Beautifully done through there. Now, how much has he got left in? Because he's a quick check of his watch, and he's kicking on towards home. Will it be our first rider to achieve that optimum time of 6 minutes and 7 seconds? Certainly still having to set the mare up. She's full of running. Easily done through there. And swings back left-handed to this final combination. Now, he'd need to be jumping this with 30 seconds left on the clock. So he's perhaps a couple of seconds down now. But, of course, as I say, still plenty of petrol in the tank. Oh, and he just had to work hard, didn't he, Clive?
Yeah.
Did he add a stride into the third skinny?
I don't think it really matters. You've just got to come around and let the horses see the last one. He did add an extra stride, but still, you know, you can't force things. You've just got to let things happen when you're on cross country and read the situation.
The magic of cross country riding. He is home safely, 3.6 time. He's the one to beat, 37.4. So Tom Crisp goes to the top of the live podium as things stand. And Mathieu Kiempa and Grand Supreme coming to the Wilbur Wonder Pony combination, 11 and 12. A little dangerously at the first element fly.
Well, he did, and then came out on 4.
Matthew goes to that big ditch and brush, and then he'll make that really tight turn back on himself. It does really slow riders up as they run back to the big dip. Rail Oxer at 14. So Matthew very easily away from that big rail. And it was a similar rail, actually, that we saw Chris Burton have his frangible 11 penalties at in Arville that caused all that drama.
Yes, it was, Nicole, all that drama. I would say, just looking back at this pair, you mentioned their show jumping being disappointing. Of course, they're probably, they are starting a little bit further back because of those poles in the show jumping, but it pretty much tracks their record. This mare has 10 runs now at this level and does average nearly 14 penalties in that show jumping phase. But when we look at the strengths, 8 from 10 jumping clear. Quite a good, reliable mare in terms of the jumping clear, Grand Supreme. And their average at the moment from a time point of view is about 8 time penalties. But that's similar to what we would have seen with some of the previous riders who all ended up maybe around 5.
Well, here is Nicholas Bashkora, Lord Sostakovich at 35.5 coming forward on their dressage score. Wilbury Wonder Pony again going along for Nicholas's cross-country round. And I should just say that if you're playing along to win the Event Rider Masters branded water bottle and you're spotting the Wilbury Wonder Pony, it needs to be the Masters berry. So not all of the berries that are strapped to riders' backs, because otherwise it would be a little bit more straightforward, perhaps. Well, if you're playing along on the Echo Ratings Stacks game, then the question for Nicholas is can he and Lord Sostakovich jump clear on the Event Rider Masters debut in our field last month? Can they jump clear again here in Jardy? 89% of you playing along have said yes. So if Nicholas does have a problem, that would be a stack buster. Mcewen at the last water, Blythe.
You can see how he just moved from the left to the right, and I think that just gives him a little bit more of a straighter line to the last part. So it's a bit of a squiggle, but it can be done.
And he is down on the clock at that water, so he is running into time penalties as things stand at the moment. Bakura coming back in the other direction with Lord Sostakovich. Lord Sostakovich makes the run out into the far field now and could challenge the leader. So Tom Crisp, Liberty and Gloria are our clubhouse leaders as things stand at the moment on a score of 37.4. He's on 35.5, so he can afford to be 4 seconds over the time, but nothing more if he wants to go ahead of Tom Crisp. And I'd say he's perhaps not going all that quickly, Blythe. We'll come to it later. But Mathieu Kiempa, Grand Supreme, clear jumping so far in his Event Rider Masters debut across the country, but the time penalties clocking up as he heads towards home. Just the last to go, but has otherwise been a very good round from this young man. And pops it very neatly over the last, so some 25 seconds, 26 over the time in total. 10.4, finishes on 68.6. Here's Nicholas Bakura, but Wilbury combination at 11 and 12. Nicely done, Blythe.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the biggest, boldest horses we've seen so far, and he still chose to go on the 5 strides in the first half of the combination and then out on 4. But this horse seems to me to be settling down into a rhythm and bowling along a lot nicer now.
Based on what we're seeing at the moment, Nicole, I feel early on, I mean, we saw Quintana P and Anna Katerina ended up with 2.8 time penalties. That's still our fastest round at the moment. But also looking into the data a little bit more, you know, they've made the time 3 times in the last 12 months. There's not many horses who have that kind of speed, and they didn't make the time. I feel this is all playing towards Sarah Cohn and Treason at the moment. I just, you know, the speed that they have, I think could stand them, could really stand to them here, in that it doesn't look like that many will make it. I think we'll come back to it as we get a little bit more deeper into the competition.
Well, I would say that Nicholas 10 seconds down on the clock as he goes into the second Event Rider Masters water at 16A and B. So away goes Sebastian Cavile. Sarah Dargouge away from the start. They were unlucky to have 2 poles down, disappointed with those 2 poles down in the show jumping. Very costly. And 39.8 the score that they bring forwards. Can't actually challenge the lead of Tom Crisp, Liberty and Glory, who are out in front on 37.4. Does it make a big difference, Blythe, the French riding on home soil?
I think so, and also they're used to these technical, twisty tracks. I think that I mean, Pierre Michelet has made a real stamp on the way that things are designed in France. And so for them, this is a familiar track.
Nicely clear of the rails at 4. So Nicholas Bakura, Lord Sostakovich at the water. And nicely done through there. And he just has to really gather the horse. You can tell, Blythe, that where he's losing that little bit of time on the cross country, he is down on the clock, but still a good clear jumping so far.
That last water complex is riding better than I thought it would be, to be honest. It's the horses seem to be locking onto the last part and reading it well.
Sebastian Cavile goes out into the far field to the big box brush. The horse looking pretty enthusiastic about her cross country. Nicholas, I think his boots might have come undone or something. He's got some sort of tack malfunction. Threw it on himself.
Swinging around to the last combination, I think.
And you can see he's really, really down on the clock now. The horse just getting a little bit strung out. And actually, he's living a little dangerously. But he gets away with it. Nicholas Bakura, the clock has turned red, so Tom Crisp is going to hold on to the top spot. Lord Sostakovich comes to the final two, goes to the last, and picking up a few time penalties, but otherwise a good round from them. Clear the final fence and kick on to complete. 23 seconds, 9.2 time. Doesn't always make it easy for Sebastian, does she, Blythe? She's quite opinionated coming into
She is, and they have a little bit of an argument every now and then just in front of the fence. She wants to go a bit faster than Sebastian thinks is wise.
Well, Sebastian Cavaillon, Sarah Dargouge making that long run to the corner at 14. And news just coming in that Emily King has withdrawn. So Emily King not coming forward. She was in 10th position going forward to the cross country, and she has withdrawn, so will not be running. Well, Sebastian taking that slightly longer route, Blythe, but gets a good straight line at that corner.
Oh, and he nearly goes over the right-hand flag instead of the left-hand one. But yeah, I think that the leaders will take the inside line because they're going to have to if they want to retain their position. But I think these horses are going around so that the riders can give them a bit more of a confident round.
A little bit down on the clock, Sebastian. Sarah Dargouge at that water. As away from the start, Felix Etzel, who was so well placed in 4th after the dressage, had disappointment with 2 poles down in the show jumping, but in 18th position coming forwards, 33.4 his starting score. And we are now into the reverse order top 20, so every single combination coming out on course now are a challenge to Tom Crisp's clubhouse lead with Liberty and Glory. No problems at the 3rd for Felix. And he kicks on to this combination at 4A and B. We've seen it jump a couple of times, Blythe, and it so far seems fairly straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the riders find their line and ride forward, and then the distance works easily for them, then no trouble.
Oh, just a slightly sticky moment for Sebastian Cavaillon. We'll see that again because he just looked to have slipped slightly coming out of the water, Blythe.
Yeah, I mean, he went forward through the water faster than anybody else, and he got a very bold jump up, and then there's a tight turn after, and he just wasn't quite in control.
Well, an experienced pair, and with a very good jumping record as well. 11 times at the level, and only once picked up a jumping fault. They've also been to 5-star level at Le Moulin as well.
Things look to have just got a little bit wild for him at the end of his round.
I'm not sure that the brakes are working very well just at the moment.
Well, we'll just see this again because up the step, one stride, swings left-handed, and just talk us through that, Blythe, because it just doesn't quite
Well, as
get
I
the
say,
turn.
he took the turn much faster than he wanted to, and so he was struggling for control a little bit, and he was quite lucky, to be honest, because it was a bit of a nasty moment.
Well, Felix Etzel coming to the rail, Ricehouse at the far side of the course, swinging back right-handed to 11 and 12 with Bandit, the Will Be Wonder pony combination. Oh, just living dangerously. Felix Etzel at the combination. And there is Sebastian Cavaillon, 32 seconds over, 52.6 his total score. Sarah Dargouche home safely after a couple of hairy moments later on in their round, but a clear jumping for them. Felix Etzel swings back to that big Mim clip rails, clears it well, and goes on to this corner at 40. And we've seen a variety of lines at this corner, Blythe. Most have worked very well. Do you think there'll be a preference go back to the later riders to come?
I think that the leading riders will take the inside line because they want to save every second they can. I don't know that the inside line has actually ridden any worse than the outside line. The horses seem to be locking on and understanding the problem. So I think the word might filter back to sneak through on the inside.
Well, Felix well down on the clock as he comes to the water. 20-something seconds down by the time he takes this house. And 24 seconds in total, but clears it well and continues on. So here comes Michael Young, a winner here 2 years ago. That was with Star Connection. He rides Kriva Cooley this time, the mare looking for her first completion at this level of competition, and of course the double Olympic champion on board. But this is a horse, Blythe, that he thinks a huge amount of for the future.
Yes, it's a horse I don't know very well, but rumour has it that Michael has a lot of time for her, so he would know.
She was actually produced by Kitty King over in Great Britain, then went to a young Swedish rider, went to a junior European championships, and then has only come to Mickey's Yard in May of this year, so a very new partnership.
Exactly.
And nicely done through 4A and B. So he's on a score of 33.3. And if he does push towards the time, then he could challenge the lead at the moment of Tom Crisp, Liberty and Glory. But of course, a little way to go for that. Taking the direct route. I don't think we'll see many people taking the longer alternative there, Blythe.
No, I mean, we probably saw her back off as much as any horse we've seen so far, but she looks like a nice, careful sort of horse, and she's just learning her trade. Michael rode nice and strong there and gave her the confidence. There isn't a drop into that water, so, you know, once the horses are through that, it should help for the second and third waters.
Well, Felix Etzel having a real discussion with Bandits down at the 17A and B. And swings back left-handed. The time is already turning red and clocking over, so those penalties will clock up very quickly. Hasn't been chasing the time, and I think there might be a query from our ground jury about a flag issue for him as well, so we might see a replay of that in just a moment. But he comes through the final combination very nicely.
That fence is riding really well.
So Felix Etzel has 2 left to go, and he clears the penultimate, just the last. The time penalties are clocking up, but it's been a good jumping clear round so far for him. We'll come back to that flag penalty query in just a second, but otherwise a very good round from Felix, and a real disappointment for him after those those 2 poles down in the show jumping. Well, this is Felix Etzel, and easily clear through that corner, just took the flag.
I'm definitely not the judge, but that looks all right to me, although this is a different fence.
And that could be the query from our ground jury, because that was a little bit risky from Felix Etzel. Down at 17A and B. 17B, I'd say, looked okay. The first half of the horse went through no problems. It was just the hind quarters that took the flag. We'll wait for the confirmation from our ground jury of that.
Michael just took the inside line to the corner, rode it very nicely.
Michael Young coming to the water. The good 10 seconds down on the clock, sorry, 14. Should be jumping in there with 2 minutes and 21 left on the clock at the first element. As here comes Maxime Livio and Opium de Verrières. So Maxime, on one of the most experienced horses in the field, was actually top 10 here with Calau de Mer previously as well. He's a 5-star winner. Michael Young heading towards home with Kriva Cooley. This has been a good round for Michael. Heading back towards the second of the waters. He's down on the clock, so isn't going to be challenging to go inside that 6 minutes and 7 seconds optimum time. But Blythe, just have a look at this water with us. It's jumped well so far.
It has. I mean, I thought the angle on the last fence was quite steep, but the horses seem to really understand where they're meant to go. And that was well done.
Well, Michael Young well down on the clock as he goes away from there, and you can see he isn't chasing the time as things stand. Tom Crisp, the one to beat at the moment, 37.4 the total score for him, with Liberty and Glory. As Maxime Livio and Opium de Verrières individually 11th at the World Equestrian Games last year in trial in this combination. No doubt gearing up for a French assault at the European Championships in Le Moulin this year. That's very experienced as Kriva Cooley and Michael Young. Horse looking for her first completion at this level of competition. And nicely done through there,
Very
Blythe.
nicely done. Yep, couldn't ask for more.
So those time penalties clocking up for Michael Young, Kriva Cooley, as he comes up to the final fence. And it's been a good clear round across the country jumping wise, just a few time penalties to add. And he pops the last and comes home, stopping the clock 29 seconds, 30 seconds over the time. 45.3 will have a top 20 finish. Here's Maxime Livio, Opium de Verrières. Very easily done through there.
He's the first rider we've seen go on 4 and 4 strides, but this is a very experienced horse with a big stride and very confident.
He didn't even look like he pushed for those 4 strides, did he?
No, very good.
Well, Maxime Livio on a score of 32.7. Coming to the corner. But 15. Oh, just snuck in there a little bit, Blythe. Knocked the flag, but got away with it.
Yeah, I mean, he kept the pace up in the turn, and you only get one shot, and he went on what he had, and it worked out all right.
It's interesting, I think, when you draw the comparison with some of the younger, more inexperienced horses that we saw this morning, and now looking at Opium de Verrières. This, as you can see, well down on the clock, if we're to go with that at the moment. Opium de Verrières, reasonable speed, reasonable speed, but didn't make the time at WEG, but we're only a couple of seconds over.
And you never know with that team orders. You always have to have a little bit in the back of your mind that says, actually, were they riding for team instructions?
Yeah, they haven't. They've made the time a few times in recent times, but nothing outstanding, I would say. But just from optics, Blythe, it looks very calm and collected as a round,
yes,
compared to some of the rounds that we've seen.
Yep, I would agree with that. But he's let the horse find his rhythm, and he's allowing him to bowl along, but he's not pushing him along. But he's not fighting him either, so he's not wasting any time.
Well, one thing I would say is 1 second down at the first of the waters. No, second of the waters, sorry. So just 1 second down on the clock, but everybody in that final 2 minutes of the course has been losing time. So this will be interesting. He looks to have caught up a little bit as he comes to this water. Easily done through there. So will Maxime Livio be able to challenge this time? We're going to find out, because he's got just over a minute to get home.
I think you probably do need to be well. You need to be not well up, but you certainly need to be seeing green there on your check when you're coming into those late combinations. You know, there is that combination at the very end.
Still a bit of jumping to do, and he's got less than a minute to do it in. So
he needs to be jumping the final combination, which we'll see in just a second, with around 30 seconds left on the clock. So he's going to be very close to it. And actually, he can afford to be 11 seconds over the time to go ahead of Tom Crisp, Liberty and Glory, who are the current clubhouse leaders. But I think what we are seeing is that you do really have to have a little bit of time in the bank for this latter part of the course. Oh. And the combination just showing all of their experience there, Blythe, because they didn't miss a beat after that trip.
well, that is cross-country riding, to be able to stay in the plate when things go a little awry, and he really just didn't stop riding.
Well, Maxime Livio, Opium de Verrières, picking up a few time penalties as he comes to the final fence. He clears it very well, and he should go to the top of the podium. In fact, will just go into second behind Liberty and Glory. So Liberty and Glory, Tom Crisp, will stay in the top spot.
I actually have, in terms of the speed rating on Opium de Verrières, he is still within our top like 6 or 7, maybe in around that. So he has shown speed in the past at different levels of the sport. Again, when I'm looking at who's at the very top of that, Kareem's horse, Punch de Leskev, is fast, but Treason. Treason.
Well, Treason will be the fourth last to go out on course with Sarah Cohen. Maxime Livio just debriefing with the French team at the end of his round, but a very accomplished performance with Opium de Verrières, and he is second at the moment. But Tom Crisp climbs ever closer. Will be no worse than 16th, with Liberty and Glory likely to climb even higher as well. That was the horse's best ever finish at Chatsworth. Previously, the horse has competed and finished in 16th, so looking for a best event rider masters finish. Team just dismounting, and the team are very quick on hand at the end of a round, aren't they, Blythe? And we've got optimal conditions here today, really.
It's an awful lot cooler today than it was yesterday, so I think the riders and the horses will appreciate that. There's not too many hills in the course, so you would hope that fitness wasn't too much of a problem.
Well, let's go and hear from Hannah down on the ground.
Michael Young, just a few time penalties for you. How was it?
For me, it was just to learn more about the horse, to get experience together, to give her a good feeling, and I'm absolutely happy that was a super round. And yeah, now I think gives us confidence and we can keep going. So
you already look like a very impressive partnership, and you've only been, a combination for a couple of months.
Yes, but she's a great horse. It's just me. I have to learn how she's doing in a few situations, more like this or more like this. And but this time she's absolutely listening. I can go forward. I can go more collect. And if I use my legs, she jump much more forward. So I think she's a clever horse. And I think that was a good experience today.
Well, we look forward to seeing the both of you a lot more in the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, away goes Nicolas Touzon, Vendée Globe Jacques on a score of 31.0, and they can challenge the lead of Tom Crisp and Liberty and Glory, who are currently out in front on 37.4. A horse that actually finished on his dressage score to take the win of Verano a little bit earlier on this year. Just unlucky to pick up 1 second over the time in the show, jumping for 0.4 of a penalty, but in 15th position coming forward. So flags up on the Accurating speed ratings as one to keep an eye on. Nicolas Touzon, of course, an incredible jockey, an Olympic gold medalist, and an European champion back in 2003 as well. The only Frenchman still to have won badminton horse trials. And the wonderful Grey Galant de Sauvière, who a legendary partnership in their day. And this horse not hanging around, Blythe.
been a good positive start. Nicholas has just been without a really top horse for the last few years, so hopefully this is the one that he's looking for.
Well, quickly on to the Wilbury Wonder Pony box at 11 and 12, A and B.
For me, this is a round to watch for a number of different reasons, because actually, look, we've got a very high jumping clear rate at the moment. We haven't seen, we saw Izzy Taylor, but we haven't seen really any other trouble. This is a horse who he picked up jumping penalties in Samur and also Bakura in the last couple of years, and equally, you've mentioned him in the speed ratings. We've also seen some very fast rounds. I think if there's no jumping penalties here, it's a good indication that we're probably not likely to see that many more. If you can see you smiling at me, Blythe, because I know.
Well, I will believe you.
Well, it's just an interesting one in that the jumping record here is not as strong as some of the ones to come, but the speed record is also strong. So I think you get a good indication from what's to come from a couple of different angles with this combination.
Well, easily clear of the corner at 15, and he is not hanging around. He should be good on time as he comes to this second of the Waters. And actually, he's going to be about where he needs to be, a couple of seconds up on the clock even. As 5 seconds up, so this is a really, really, really key round to watch. And we've been saying that you need to have a little bit of time in the bank at this first part of the course because you can't make it up in the second part. As next away, Raphael Cochet, Haras De Jardy had a super clear round in the show jumping. Added nothing to a dressage score of 30.8. And this a horse at Blythe that has just impressed in both the phases so far. Such a lovely attitude.
I couldn't agree more. Just has a real focus and mind on the job and willingness to please.
Well, on a very good starting score of 30.8, and it gets a good shot at the third. Nicolas Touzon at the water, and he is up on time. This is a big round from the Frenchman. And I just saw the flag go slightly in the right of our screen there. It'll be interesting to see that. He certainly brushed through the top of the fish, but he swings left-handed back to one of the nice inviting fences before the brush and box at 21 A and B. And just runs into difficulty. Now, Blythe, talk us through that, because actually the angle is very acute, but it's jumped well so far today.
It has, and it actually is quite a turn. I mean, there is the option to do 4 bending there, but these horses and riders have chosen the direct 3. I did sense just when he came out of the water that he got a little bit of urgency and he tried to make up a bit of time, and I think that just meant that he didn't quite get the line as he wanted. The horse certainly didn't know where he was expected to go, and then that's how an easy mistake happens.
Well, it is expensive for Nicolas Touzon, and he was on target to go towards the top of the leaderboard, but that 20 will take him out of contention. Raphael Cochet, meanwhile, Haras De Jardy right out on the far side of the course. Long run down to the rails at 10. Here's Nicolas Touzon carrying those 20 penalties. The clock is, of course, clicking up those penalties as well now, and a really expensive round from them. They'd been so impressive up until that point, but unfortunately that will take their challenge away. Nicely done. Or was that the 5 strides to the 4 strides?
It was 5 to 4, and I think that's the way that it's riding best at the moment.
Well, Well, Raphael makes that sharp turn back. He's got 6.6 penalties ahead of Tom, Crisp, Liberty and Glory. So he can afford 6.4 time penalties, 16 seconds over the time to go ahead of Tom, who is making a slow and steady climb towards a top 10 finish here. Look, just coming to the corner, cutting every second he can, Blythe, and he did that really nicely.
Yeah, really nice. I mean, I think we'll see that happen more and more, the inside line, because it does just save 1 or 2 seconds, and every second counts.
Really does, especially at the moment, because we're still looking for our first combination to achieve that time.
On that, Nicole, averaging at the moment from what we've seen about between 8 and 9 time penalties is about what we're averaging, I would say. And we are, we're jumping at an 83% rate at the moment. We've had those 2 issues, but other than that, not much so far.
Well, away goes Arnaud Boiteau. Quoriano, a horse that has really impressed in the jumping a little bit earlier on this morning. So extravagant. Looks to be having a few problems with his watch as he sets out from the start box. A little bit too extravagant, cost them a little bit of time. So 0.8 time penalties to add, and that cost them a couple of places on the leaderboard as well. But Arnaud, hugely experienced, been to many major championships for France. Part of the French team that won team gold in Athens in 2004. He's quickly away from the first 3. Here is Raphael Cochet at the water. Bold, Blythe, at the first couple of elements.
Couldn't agree more. And then he's just missed a stride a little bit on the bank on the way out, but still managed to get over the last part.
Well, Raphael is chasing the time because he's got a minute to get home. As Arnaud Boiteau and Quoriano heading out to the first of the waters. Have to admit, this horse finished 13th here last year and actually achieved the time on the cross country here 12 months ago. So this could be a real indicator for that time. Raphael Cochet, meanwhile, just over 40 seconds to get home. He's going to be one of the quickest that we've seen, but even then, Blythe, I think he's going to be close to it.
Yeah, but I agree with you. He's one of the quickest we've seen so far.
Well, he can be 16 seconds over the time to go ahead of Tom, Crisp, Liberty and Glory. And that is just where the pressure doesn't help them out, because Raphael Cochet was just a little bit free coming down off that first element.
Yeah, I mean, he was riding positively, and I think you do have to at this combination, but you do have to trust the horse, and I don't think the horse locked on. But that is the problem with this combination, is there's no margin for error.
We'll just see this again. He was certainly flying. First one was fine. Second one,
I think if anything, he might have been a little bit direct between 1 and 2 and gave himself too much of a turn between 2 and 3. And the horse just thought, well, easier to go round.
Easier to go round. It didn't quite lock on, and a costly 20 penalties for Raphael Cochet. Quoriano just rather rattling their way through the hay rack at 12A, but Arnaud Boiteau gets away with it.
Taking a little bit of a risk on the 4 and 4, but he will have saved half a second.
And actually it looks like Raphael Cochet has put his hand up and decided to call it a day after that problem down at the brushes after those 20 penalties.
Very disappointing for them. They were on track for their best ever finishing score, like for Raphael. So at this level, so they would have had probably about 6 or 7 penalties. It's a 36 that was their best ever. They were on a 30 and looking like they were going to get close to that time.
It's a difficult sport.
And that was an exceptionally economical line.
Very nice. This horse is a lovely jumper as well. He makes a great shape and he gets right up into the air. Must be a very nice feeling.
Well, Arnaud Boiteau, Quoriano coming to this water, and they're going to be about 5 seconds up on the clock. Now, we've seen a couple of people 5 seconds up on the clock there that have still chased the clock coming home. So watch this space. as your Kerbal about to get underway. The Ozeras entertain you just a fraction over the time in the show jumping, gave them 0.4 to add, but on a very competitive score of 30.5 in 12th position coming forward to the cross country, and he is away on course. Quickly clear of the first two, makes the turn left-handed up the bank to the brush at 3. And takes that very nicely, not wasting a second on the turn as Arnaud comes to the water. And he's up on the clock.
Me, that was just the perfect line. Very nicely done.
He can actually afford a few time penalties as well. 16 seconds over the time can he afford to be to go ahead of Tom, Chris, Liberty and Glory, who've been holding on to that top spot for a little while now.
Well, you mentioned that they made the time here last year. They also made the time at Haras De Jardy. So their last 2 cross-country rounds have been inside the time. They're both 2018, first international 2019.
Well, watch this space. We'll come back to Coriano as he turns back to this final combination. And this is where we've seen Raphael Cochet running into problems chasing the clock. And Arnaud jump clear here. Well, I had to say, a bit of an intake of breath at the third element. But Arnaud gets away with this, and the horse still looking full of running as he gallops on towards home. The clock is going to be very tight. He's just got the last to go. Are we going to see France go to the top of the live podium here? And he clears the last and kicks on through the finish. The clock is stopped 1 second over the time. 0.4 of a penalty. Finishes on 31.0, but he is the one to beat, Dan.
He's the one to beat now, and that was, you know, it was a fast round, and we've mentioned that he had been inside the time here a couple of times. Again, Nicole, the closer as we get into that top 10, the more I keep thinking I shouldn't have overlooked treason by this much. The prediction centre is telling me now, you know, everything that we're seeing, the speed is going to play a big role. Back to your Kerbal.
Well, you'll get up on the clock a little bit, but isn't as quick as some that we've seen so far. Gets him very close to that ditch and brush just there, and looked a little bit dangerously, makes the turn back towards the big parallel. And actually that just has made him steady up a little bit, respect this frangible device, because he doesn't want to be hurdling the Mim Clip Oxer quite like he did the ditch and brush, Blythe.
No, just back on keel a little bit. The horse has got an enormous stride and is really taking him forward, so he's got to make use of these big open spaces.
Well, he's going round the bank. And gets the corner at 15, and then really pushing on to the second of those waters, the Event Rider Masters houses. Now, he can only afford to be 1 second over the time to go ahead of Arnaud Botto, who's really laid the gauntlet down with Coriano, and he's only 3 seconds up on the clock there. We know that you need a little bit of time in the bank for the second part of the course. Set down at the start. It is Tahina Dazil, Camille Lejeune, the 5-star combination, who just picked up a few time penalties in the show jumping, but otherwise a clear round on a score of 30.3 coming forwards. Here of the first element. If you are just joining us here in Haras De Jardy, then a very warm welcome. Leg 4 of the 2019 Event Rider Masters Series. We're approaching the top 10 reverse order cross country. We've got ideal conditions here for cross country riding. A little bit of a cool breeze, overcast and not too warm. In the studio with me, double world champion Blythe Tate, and also from Echo Ratings, Dan Byrne as well. Your gets his line through there, Blythe.
He did. He was quite bold at the beginning, but then he got back on track and nicely done.
And he is, I think, chasing that clock as things stand at the moment. He's not far off being on target, but he can't afford to waste any time at the latter part of the round. Emile Lejeune, Tahina Dazil, easily through the first of the waters on that score of 30.3.
Well, the other big 5-star horse that we saw earlier was Opium de Veria. We'll come back to that in a moment. Back to Jorg.
Well, Jorg is going to be hard pushed to make the time from here, but he needs to jump through this final combination clear. And the horse, I would have to say, was very honest there, Blythe.
He was. I mean, as soon as you end up a bit far off the first of those skinny fences, the turn to the second one is quite tight. But he did the job. Handsome as handsome does.
Well, Jorg Kerbel comes to the final fence. He sees a flyer. He's not going to be able to overhaul Arnaud Boiteau, but he goes second on the leaderboard at the moment, 32.5. A brilliant round from the German. And that was quite the performance. He goes second behind our leader, but what a performance. The fastest round of the day from Arnaud Boiteau, who is with Hannah.
Arnaud, you have made it onto the top of the podium. Just one time fault on the cross country. Please take your place. How was it?
Great, great. The course is very twisty and it's difficult to be close from the time. I knew my horse was able to do it because he's a good jumper. He's very fast and easy to turn. So it's not a surprise for me. I'm very happy with him. But it's not a big surprise, yeah. He's an experienced horse, he's 15, and he did well last year here on the same course. So, yeah, happy.
Well, you've really laid the gauntlet. Well done, Arnaud.
Thank you very much.
I think they can be really pleased. Every phase for that combination across the weekend, they have been ahead of where they have been recently. Their dressage has been in around 32. That's the best ever finishing score for that combination at this level of the sport. So great weekend for Jorg.
Good job.
Well, Tahina Dazil coming to the second of the waters, the Event Rider Masters houses, and he's going to be a little bit down on the clock as he comes to the first of these elements here. Can afford to be 1 second over the time to go ahead of Arnaud Boiteau, but nothing more. Well, here comes the 2018 Jardy winner, the defending champion Alex Bragg with Sarah Hughes' Alcatraz. Horse only just stepped up to the level here in 2019, but is impressed. Was unlucky to have a late 20 penalties in Arville done, but Alex said in his interview after dressage that he really thought this track would suit the horse. And let's be honest, we know he's going to be challenging for a top 10.
I was really impressed with Alcatraz at Arville, and while he looked like he tired a little bit in the second part of the course, maybe, you know, Alex has mentioned this track will suit him better. It's a completely different challenge, one being very, very hilly, and this being a much more technical, typical Michelet type track where he's having to make the most of flat ground. It's a combination, as you say, Nicole, not that many runs at the level, but one that Alex is really thinking very highly of and joining that group, you know, that elite group alongside Zagreb. So a lot to watch out for here.
Well, Camille Lejeune got him very close to the first element there, Blythe.
Yeah, I mean, it was safe. The horse worked it out. He left him alone, and no harm done.
Well, Alex Bragg very quickly through the first of the waters. So he heads off across the driveway, going to the big box brush on that score of 30.2. Just a reminder, the leader at the moment is Arnaud Boiteau Coriano, 31.0. Yet to see anybody achieve the optimum time of 6 minutes and 7 seconds. Arnaud being the quickest, just 1 second over that time. But of course, still as we come into the top 10, some of the world's best coming forwards. Camille Lejeune falls victim to the final combination. Blythe, you said it was going to be influential.
Yeah, I mean, it's very disappointing. The horses can't really sight that fence until they've made the turn. You need to be on your rhythm and on your stride in order for them to be able to answer the question. And I think the horse did look as though it was tiring a fraction, and they just ended up a bit far off the last element.
Well, unfortunately, Camille Lejeune out of contention as Alex Bragg looking really confident with Alcatraz.
Very brave. He goes on the 4 and 4 strides.
When I talk about the speed ratings, one of the things that's difficult is, for a horse that won't have had that many rounds at the level, it hasn't necessarily been possible for Alcatraz to maybe show that speed rating, and he did end up with 9.2 time penalties at Arville, but that was with, of course, that jumping penalty. They were on track, I felt, to potentially make the time in Arville, which is a venue which is very, very difficult to make the time. They were fairly close to it, and maybe that contributed to that 20 penalties coming towards the end. I think Alcatraz could be one, maybe just a little bit under the radar. If they jump clear, that I think they could be very close to the time here.
He's certainly looking very quick at this stage. Good job there.
Alex, of course, the defending champion here at Jardy. Very low dressage last year with Zagreb, led from start to finish in this competition.
Well, Alex at the water, and he is the quickest that we have seen so far to this point of the course. Can he go ahead of Arnaud Boisseau on a score of 31.0? Alex coming to this combination 17 A and B. Just see them through this combination. Alex working hard at the second element, but gets it well. Your Kerbal has gone onto the podium just into second. Let's go to Hannah.
Jorg, you've gone into second. That was a lovely round. How did you find it?
It was, what do you say, lovely, yeah. My horse helped me on 2 fences. I had not a really good distance, and he is big, but he jumped like a cat. He helped me a lot.
He's got so much spring to him, considering how big he is, and you're a big man on top of him, but he makes it look effortless.
Yeah, right. He is like a cat in the cross country. Yeah, before I had smaller horses. He was not this fast in the lakes and everything, and he's perfect.
Congratulations, Jorg.
Thank you.
Well, I have to say, Alex Bragg is absolutely flying. A picture of concentration away from the water. He entertained the French crowds here 12 months ago. He could be on target to entertain them again, because if he can go inside the time and become the first person to do so, then he is going to take all the beating.
These are the fine lines that we love about the sport. Big moment for me this last minute now of the course. If he becomes the first person to make the time, suddenly the excitement around that camp is completely different than picking up a 20 penalties very late at Arville and potentially picking up a 20 penalties here. This is a big moment. This is the really fine lines between how we're looking at Alcatraz and how that camp are feeling. Hopefully they take it home from here.
And Blythe, just talk us through this combination, because we've seen a few chasing the clock with the late 20 penalties.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, you need to be a bit more forward on the way in so that you don't have to reach for the second one, because then it just takes you out of your rhythm. Good recovery, though.
Well, Alex did have to work pretty hard through that combination, but he is clear, and he can be 1 second over the time to go to the top of the live podium. He's just got the last to go. It is going to be very close. He is going to need to take a flyer at the last, I think. Alex Bragg, a winner here 12 months ago, rides a finish, and he is going to go to the top of the podium, and he is going to be the first to achieve the optimum time here. 30.2, the defending champion, guaranteed a top 10 finish.
Great moment, and you can hear what it means to Alex. I thought they were very unlucky at Arville, and I think now they can really, they'll be so proud now that Alcatraz has come through, showing what he's really made of. It hasn't been a track that's been easy to make the time on, and it hasn't necessarily been a track that's been completely easy in jumping. There's been questions there to be asked that he had to answer, even coming towards the end, Blythe. He had to recover and show all of his experience to just make sure he stayed together.
And I think that is the thing with this track, is that the faster you go, the more likely you are to make a mistake. It's very technical. There's some very steep angles, And it's a fine line, really. You've still got to be very correct in your presentation if you want to jump a clear round. So I think the time is going to be influential. It's going to be tight. I know I don't always agree with you, but I don't think there's going to be an awful lot inside the time. We'll see.
Alex Bragg just gone to the top of the podium. You said at the beginning of the weekend you thought it was going to be a dressage competition. Our dressage leader leads at the moment. Do you stand by that prediction?
Well, I don't think our dressage leader, I don't think Thibaut is going to win. But, you know, looking at the horses who are at the very top of the competition right now, King de Brio, Quick Look, Calero, they're all there because of very good dressage tests. And but look, the first part of this has certainly tested time. I think we've got there's some tactical elements of that. Some of those horses were going to be on more educational rounds. As we get into this area of the course, I think Blythe is completely correct. And Pierre Michelet mentioned it when he was interviewed earlier. When you pick up the speed, you sometimes pick up the risk as well in terms of a jumping fault. And it sounds obvious, but it's happening.
Well, Janelle Price currently second in the series fight, looking to build and overhaul Chris Burton here this weekend. She is out on course, away from the start with Gravine de Rev. A new ride for her this year, but a horse experienced at the level and on a score of 29.5. So the leader at the moment is Alex Bragg, 30.2. 29.5 is their score, so can afford to be 2 seconds over the time. Well, Janelle quickly clear of the first three. Now, you know this lady, Blythe. She's fast, furious, and she's quick in the cross country.
Yeah, she is, and it's been a good start. We'll see how he jumps his first combination. Nice and bold and straight, so that'll give her confidence, and she can kick on from here.
Bit of a reminder for Gravine de Rev away from the water. Perhaps Janelle just felt he was backing off a little bit too much, Blythe.
Yes, I mean, he is a careful horse, and I think she's just saying to him, look, you can't hang around and have a look at everything here. You've just got to listen to me and keep going forward and trust her.
Well, Janelle makes her way out round the far side of the course. A couple of nice inviting fences as there goes Alex Bragg. He wants to hold on to that top spot for as long as possible. He was on top of it at the end of the year last year. He is the defending champion and he loves the French crowd. Let's go and hear what he has to say with Hannah.
Alex, you won here 12 months ago. That was another faultless round. First person to go inside the time. How was it?
It was really easy. I don't think anyone needs to put any effort in. So just go steady, guys, and it's a nice schooling round. I mean, you know, you need a good horse, a nippy horse. He's got to be really genuine. And, you know, the stride gets so big when you're going so fast. And then when you come around the corners and they have to adjust. And, you know, he was really good at me at the end. He just stayed really genuine because he got a bit close to those triple brushes. And I landed from that, and he'd probably expect me to pat him and say, sorry about that, mate, and I kick him and I go, come on! You know, because you know that clock's ticking and you can't lay up on him. But yeah, I'm thrilled with Alcatraz. He's done an amazing job, and, you know, bar that little 1 second over in the show jumping, finish on a dressage school, which was, you know, a PB for him at this level. You know, I can't be disappointed with him, and it's nice to be back on the podium.
We love having you here. Well done, Alex.
Janelle Price beautifully clear of the Wilbury Wonder Pony combination at 11 and 12 and away from the Ditton Brush as well. So was very careful clear of the big rails, and she's going pretty quickly so far. We'll get a time check on her at the second of the waters, but she can afford to be 1 second over the time, but not 2 to stay ahead of Alex Bragg.
She's on 49 clear rounds at this level of the sport in cross country. So she's 64 runs, 64 runs since 2008 at 4-star short and 49. So a landmark 50 coming up if Gravine de Rev can keep everything together here.
Well, she is actually not one of the quicker ones that we've seen at that water blind. Do you think she can catch it up in the second half of the course?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you have to slow down for that turn anyway. She didn't get the shot she wanted. She had to be a bit patient. She'll make it up somewhere else, hopefully.
I think it's an interesting one, but from what we've seen so far, just the questions that are asked later in the course do require you to stay very steady and do potentially cost you time. I don't necessarily see it being a round where Janelle makes up too much time from here, Nicole.
Well, here comes Bill Levitt. Huge disappointment with that pull down in the show jumping, but he's in 8th position coming forward to the cross country. Shannondale Titan. Now, Bill, don't forget to go between the flags here. No 15 penalties to add here in Jardy. Disappointment in Arville a few weeks ago, but one of the most experienced combinations in the field. Janelle at the final water. She's okay on the clock.
Very nicely done. I mean, I don't want to speak too soon because she's got a very difficult combination at the end, but they look like a partnership. They haven't been together for very long, but they seem to be working each other out.
There's Bill Levitt into the water.
You can see with the experience from this horse, he was very bold there. He didn't back off the water at all.
It's worth mentioning, Nicole, this is an important round in the series as well. Bill has been a huge part of the series, but he's one who travels, is likely to probably be at Millstreet, likely to probably be at Linier.
It's equal third with Sarah Cohen at the moment.
Yeah, he's had a couple of unlucky rounds where it is such fine line living on the edge, which was in or outside those flags. We're back to Janelle. She looks like she's through those.
Really nice. She'd be thrilled with that.
And I think this is where you get those mini backpulls as well, because Bill wants to finish ahead of Janelle and a little bit ahead of her in the series. A heart-stopping moment at the second last, but Janelle Price comes down to the last. She's going to be over the time slightly. A few seconds could prove very expensive for her, and that actually drops her 3 places. So she goes onto the podium, but behind Alex Bragg, behind Arnaud Boiteau, and ahead of Jorg Kerbel.
Yeah, still an excellent round, and we talked about, maybe some of the horses earlier in the educational rounds. Blythe mentioned that combination are still finding each other out, and I think today is one that they'll be very pleased with to come through. There's plenty of questions that they've answered.
I think she'd be thrilled with that, and the future looks bright.
Let's see if the future is bright for Bill, because Shannondale Titan, as we know, he's had some unlucky moments in this, but overall for 3 seasons now, this has been a horse that has shone on this stage, but he's always walked a very fine line.
Well, he in 2 runs here in Jardy has only added 2 seconds over the time cross country.
And again here, I mean, he's met every fence out of a stride. He's wasted no time, and I would think, although he looks unhurried, I think he looks as though he's travelling plenty fast enough.
You can just see Bill having a check on the watch as well.
Now he could be 2 seconds over to go ahead of Alex Bragg, but of course he wants to put the pressure on those. A very fine line coming in there. He done in between the flags, Bill. We're all getting a bit twitchy, but he's all right, and he is motoring on towards the houses at the water at 16. Oh, Bill just having to work quite hard in there. He's good on time at the moment, but he hasn't got a huge amount in hand. Well, next to go away from the start, it is Joueg Lecoz, Esprit de la Loge, the horse that really caught the eye at Arville a few weeks ago. Had 8.8 time penalties there, I think, if memory serves me correctly. But so impressive. And this horse that I know a lot of people are pretty keen on over the last couple of runs in the Event Rider Masters series. On 28.2, a faultless clear round in the show jumping. And Blythe one that again just looks to love his job.
Yeah, lovely athletic horse. He's very light on his feet. Just what you look for in a cross-country horse.
Sadly, we don't have Chris Burton competing this weekend. We did hope to have Lawtown Chloe, but one of the really interesting things that a Chris Burton round will sometimes show us is that he stays in a constant rhythm all the way through. On a course like this, one of the reasons why we're potentially not seeing the time made is you're constantly being asked to come in and out of a rhythm if you're having to twist and turn, Blythe.
Yeah, no, exactly. And these fences require you to actually slow the horse down, set them up, ride the line, and then as we saw Bill, you push away from the fences. But I mean, so far Bill has maintained a very good rhythm.
Well, Esprit de la Loge clear into the first quarter and very quickly away. As there's the podium as things stand at the moment. Janelle Price makes her way into third place. Your Kerbal goes off the podium into fourth. But how long can she stay there for? Alex Bragg, the man to beat at the moment. This is the man that wants to knock them off the top of the podium. It is Bill Levitt and Shenandoah Titan. And again, he's going to be very close to that time, but I'm not sure he's quite going to make it. Well, in between the flags, through the final combination, Bill Levitt kicking towards home. He checks the watch. He can afford to be 2 seconds over the time to go ahead of Alex Bragg, but he is actually going to be a little bit more than that. Can he still make it onto the podium? He's just got the last to go. His penalty points click up, and he goes through the finish and completes, but he actually goes into fourth behind Janelle Price. And Bill Levitt, Shenandoah Titan finish on 32.5. Well, let's go down to the podium. All change, Hannah.
Janelle, just 5 seconds over the time. You described it as like being on a go-kart.
Yeah, look, I'm really pleased with 5 seconds. Obviously in a field as quality as we've got today, every second counts, but for where I'm at with this horse, I think that was a great result.
You seem to make it look pretty easy, I have to say.
Well, I don't know about that. He had a bit of a look in the first water and had a little reminder, but he's a very genuine horse, and really excited with where our relationship will go.
Fantastic, well done, Janelle.
Well, she's a very firm competitor. Janelle Price in third at the moment. Alex Bragg, the leader. Arnaud Boiteau in second with Quarianos. That is the top three. This man could, of course, change all that. It is Jureg Lacoste and Esprit de la Loge. Neatly clear of the corner. And quickly on to the water. Now, he can actually be 4 seconds over the time to go ahead of Alex Bragg. Just the one person has achieved that 6:07 optimum time so far. Blythe, the horse really showing his athleticism there.
Very athletic and very brave. I mean, he's very he unquestioning as to where he's meant to go.
Well, there is Laura Collett de Capo waiting down at the start. That will be next to go on course. Laura starts her watch and is away. 27.6 in 6th position coming forward, clear of the first. It's the horse that had 20 penalties last time out in our field, but otherwise jumped a very good round. And Laura just had a bit of a miss at the second, Blythe.
Was a miss. Anyway, hopefully it'll sharpen her up for the rest of the round, but we don't want to see that again.
Well, I think she saw a stride. De Capo disagreed, and she did well to sit tight.
A bit more careful there.
Here is Esprit de la Loge, and he is up on the clock.
Whoops. Not the ideal stride out over the bank, but got away with it.
Well, that's just where Laura had her slight moment, Blythe, and it could have all ended very early.
Could have. She did well to stick in the plate.
Well, it will no doubt sharpen them up for the rest of the course as they come to the first of the waters. And just the horse backed off the second element a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, the little mistake at fence number 2 will have had a bit of an effect, but hopefully he'll start to get confident and get a little bit more forward from here on in.
Well, here is Jureg Lacoste, Esprit de la Loge, and this looks to be pretty fast on the cross country. Can he be round number 2 inside the time? Just this last combination. Beautifully done through there. Jareg kicks on towards the last two, and this could be a really impressive round that sees him go to the top of the live podium. He's just got the last to go, and he's kicking on towards the finish. He's 7 seconds to get home. It is going to be tight, but he does it. He is inside the time. Jareg Lecoz and Esprit de la Loge dot on the optimum, finish on 28.2, go to the top of the podium. Alex Bragg goes second. Arnaud Boiteau goes into thirds. Hugely impressive round from the young Frenchman as Laura Kaulitz comes to the Wilbury combination at 11 and 12. For the first two elements. It's up for that skinny, much better there, so goes on clear, but a little bit of disappointment perhaps for Bill Levitt here this weekend. Not his weekend to get on the podium, but will be a top 12 finish at worst. Let's hear from him.
Bill, you managed to stay between the flags, but not quite your weekend.
Yeah, there was a few fences where I didn't see the, that one less stride in front of the fences, which cost you a few seconds. But he was super. Prentice family again have supported me to come out here and, show Alfie off. And he's done himself proud. So, another, hopefully a few series points and staying there with the mix. And, there will be a day when he'll get back on that podium, I'm sure.
And we look forward to it, Bill. Well done.
Thank you.
Laura Kaulitz and Da Capo just playing a little bit safe at the corner there, perhaps, Blythe.
Just as well she did, actually. He hasn't had the best start that she would have hoped for, and she's just giving him every chance here now to get his focus back.
Well, Laura can not play too much with that time because can only be 1 second over to go ahead of Jareg Lecoz and Esprit de la Loge. And she is down on the clock at the water. Well, there is Tim Price. Tim Price with Falco away from the start. 27.4 his starting score, in 5th position coming forward. The reverse order cross country here in the Event Rider Masters. If you are just joining us, Dan Byrne from Echo Ratings and Blythe Tate, double world champion, in the studio with me. And Tim comes here off the back of a very good win in Arville, and he's not out of the series hunt here, Dan.
No, absolutely. And Falco, it was a great show jumping around, but he now has another big test. It's something, of course, we go on about in this sport. You've got to do it in all of the phases, and there's no doubt about his show jumping ability. And I'm not suggesting that there's a doubt about this, but I think he has questions to answer in this phase. This is the phase that, if he comes through today, like Janelle and Gravine de Rev, he will be absolutely delighted with a clear jumping around here, and let's see how he does on the time. But clear jumping is the first question to answer.
He hasn't had a lot of experience at this level. You couldn't help but be impressed with his show jumping round. So if he replicates that and understands all these questions, I think he could give us a good round.
Forgot we had a Kiwi sitting in between us there, Nicole, for a moment. Completely agree, by the way, Blythe. And you're right, in terms of experience, he hasn't had the opportunity yet to answer lots of these questions.
Absolutely, but I think Tim knows that, and this is a big step up for the horse here, but can he deliver? That is the question. Laura Kaulitz at the water. And just, the horse hasn't been his usual fluent self.
No, 2 strides coming out of the water there, meant to be one, but Laura is certainly sticking to her guns, and no way she's giving up.
And she is well down on the clock as she comes to the final combination. Hold at the first element. But gets all 3 very well, and
very nice.
She's 8 seconds left on the clock to get home. She can still pick up good series points here, but those time penalties can prove very expensive. Jareg Lecoz can stay safely at the top of the podium for a few moments as Laura goes clear of the last and goes on to complete. She'll go into no worse than 10th position in total. And Tim Price at the Wilbury combination boldly through the first 2 elements and just paying the price a little bit at the final element, Blythe.
Yeah, well, when he went on the forward 4 strides, it made a bit more of a turn, and he had to come out on 5. But again, safely done and on to the next.
So let's just remind you of the position as things stand at the moment. Chirag Lecom's Esprit de la Loge guaranteed a top 6 finish. They are currently top of the live podium. Alex Bragg in second and Arnaud Boiteau in third at the moment. As Tim Price goes on to the corner at 40. Well, there is Chirag going to knock Alex Bragg down into second. He can't defend his title here in Jardy, but he has still put in a strong performance. Chirag, though, is in the top spot for the time being. So, go and hear what he has to say in a moment.
Superb round.
Yes, my horse was great. He felt more experienced now and jumping between the flags. Even at the last quarter, I didn't have the spot I wanted, but he was very honest and I'm very happy.
You've had a great event finishing on your dressage score. Is that what you had hoped to do?
Yes, it's fantastic, really. I'm really happy.
Good, congratulations.
Well, Falco just looking a little bit green going through that combination, but Tim Price showing all of his experience and the horse really responding beautifully. Well, here is Sarah Cohen and Treason, a combination that are normally notorious for being fast across the country. Ones that you were wishing you'd gone in a little bit more strongly on at the start of the competition.
Absolutely. I mean, everything for me hinged on that show jumping round. If it was a very tough show jumping and they didn't get clear, I think it would have affected them. Of course, they've jumped clear, they've put themselves in a wonderful position now, and if it becomes a time test, which we've seen today up until this point, then I think you would want Treason to be the horse that you're sitting on in this field. Tim and Falco. Tim is having to work like Laura did before them, but this is the benefit of having those really top experienced riders on board. Some days, like maybe with the Capo, some days you have to change your plan. You have to react to what's happening on the course, and I think we saw that with Laura. Tim's also having to use all of his experience here with Falco Blythe.
He is. I mean, the horse is green, but I mean, it's very impressive. I think probably at this stage, if I had to take one horse home with me, it would be this one.
Interesting.
Well, Sarah Cohen clear of the first water. Treason quickly away. It's a combination who know each other so exceptionally well, and finished fourth in Wiesbaden a little bit earlier on this year. But let's see Falco head towards home, because this has been a masterclass of cross-country riding from Tim Price. The horse inexperienced at this level of competition, but very much stepping up to the mark. Now can afford to be a second over the time to stay ahead of Chirag Lecom's, but nothing more. And of course, he does need to jump clear. Late problems on course for Tim Price and Falco take them out of contention. Blythe, there's such disappointment there.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be gutted, and to be honest, the horse was penalised really for almost jumping too well. Just got a bit too much height, a little bit too much jump, and then again, as I said before, the turn becomes very tight then.
Well, Tim Price and Falco ruining those late 20 penalties on course as they come to the final fence, and they clear the last, but really do remember this horse's name for the future, because so much promise, owned by Sue Benson, and given a really encouraging round by Tim. Just an inexperienced 20 penalties late on in their round.
For me, this is a key moment that we're about to see on screen. This round would normally, because there's still 3 people to go, normally the excitement builds and builds and builds to this point. But Sarah Cohen and Treason, they're hugely reliable. They suit a track like this. We've seen it. They've gone to places like Wiesbaden before and been and won in an Event Rider Masters class. These type of tracks are great for Treason. They have huge speed and massively reliable. They very rarely make a fault. I think this is set up really well for Sarah Cohen.
We'll do a clock check on them as they come to the water, but they weren't massively up on the clock at the rails, so they'll need to put their foot down on the accelerator. They go taking the inside line there, Blythe, and just,
Nope, they get away with it.
Just a little dangerously. Sarah Cohen coming to this water. She is, of course, coming to the bounce in. No problems there. She's 7 seconds up on the clock.
Well, that's pretty quick.
She is one of the quickest that we've seen so far. Corner. And unfortunately, 20 penalties. One of the most experienced horses and reliable horses in the field. And unfortunately, Sarah Cohen and Treason. That is a big shock, Derm.
Huge moment, huge moment. She'll be gutted. Huge, such a popular rider. But it shows, Blythe, and you've been warning me against this all weekend, and I can see that little grin on your face now.
I'm definitely not grinning.
No, you're grinning at me, and nothing to do with what's happening on track. But what I mean is, it shows that as the tension builds, even a horse like Treason, this is, can make a jumping fault. I think the last jumping fault we saw.
And I think it's very subtle course designing as well, though, because for me, the 3 strides were there if you could come from a bit wider out. You could come from a bit more to the right, but you couldn't. You have to come from the left. So I think I would have chosen 4 strides at that combination.
Well, the ground jury just looking to have reviewed Sarah at 11A, so they will review those 15 penalties. But she has, of course, had the 20 penalties on the card already.
Have retired on course a couple of times, but actually you've got to go all the way back to 2009 in a 2-star since we last saw them have a jumping fault.
Well, Felix Vogue Calero away on course, clear of the first 6. One man, though, who must be hugely disappointed after such a promising round is Tim Price.
Yes, he is hugely disappointed. You just thrown your gloves and your whip on the floor, Tim. Falco showed such promise.
It was so much fun. He's really starting to learn all the different facets because he's a super jumper, but he's always been a bit one-dimensional with that, so he's learning all the different ins and outs required for the job, and had them almost nailed, and I knew that was a tough combination for him at the end. He just didn't expect the second chevron, the second skinny, unfortunately, and but he was really good to come the second time and jump out, and man, he's got some good experience out of this, but it's bloody frustrating.
We've seen a couple of people come unstuck. Sarah Cohen has just had a run out as well. I mean, it's a tough course.
Yeah, it's of a standard 4-star short, but it's the hardest it gets at that level, and so it's a big task, and I was really happy with him.
Well, I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of Falco in the future. Well done, Tim.
Yeah, you will. Cheers.
Well, it is all drama here in Jardy as Felix Vogue Calero, the Wilbury Wonder Pony combination. It's a 5-star combination, but a combination who have had a few cross-country jumping penalties in their time. They picked up penalties at the World Equestrian Games last year in Tryon when competing for Switzerland there. And there is Sarah Cohen. She completes just a few time penalties and 52.7 her total score, but huge disappointment for them. I'm sure we'll see them back again in the series, but no more series points here for Cutty to add to her tally. There's Felix Vogue at the rails at...
Clear rate now 74%, still very, very high for a 4-star short. But we have seen those 2 big moments with Tim and with Sarah. Calero, as you mentioned, did pick up jumping penalties at WEG, also picked them up in Ocala just after that, later in 2018, so that year. But they have put together 3 jumping clears in a row since that: Carolina, Tryon and Lexington. So on a good run here. They've obviously delivered an incredible first phase score. They're still on it right now, 25.8. This is going to be a big moment here for Felix.
Well, he comes to the water and he hasn't got a huge amount of time in hand here, actually. He's going to be a bit down on the clock, which could come back to haunt him in the second half of the round, Blythe, because very much riders have needed to be up on the clock there.
And we've seen what happens when you haven't got any time spare. The risks creep in and the mistakes happen.
Well, Nicole, it is time for the Echo Ratings favourite, because Gemma Tattersall is on course. Quick look.
Well, Gemma Tattersall, who won Chatsworth 2017 Event Rider Masters with this horse, is away. This lady was the 2017 Series champion. She's won a couple of Event Rider Masters legs, been on the podium on a number of times, and she comes to the 3rd. Pebbles didn't go quite to plan in Arville, as she's known at home a few weeks ago, but Gemma happy that she's back on form. And of course, They all want to make their way onto the podium. Here is Felix Vogue at the water. Now he is down on the clock again, Blythe.
Yeah, and I do think it'll be hard for him to make it up, but I mean the horse has got a big stride. There is a little bit of galloping left, but he needs to set up for that last combination.
Now he can be 5 seconds over the time to go ahead of Jureg Lecoz, so we'll come back to him in just a second. But Gemma Tattersall and Quick Look, 25.1 their score, down through the water, but huge disappointment for one lady who thought she could have a podium finish here this weekend, Sarah Cohen with Hannah.
Sarah, oh, so much experience with Treason, and even he came unstuck.
Yeah, absolutely gutted. Just didn't quite read it. I think he always goes out with the right shoulder, which I'm aware of, but usually you point him and he's there. But I think just a few fences before, because it is twisty and technical, he was a little bit like, oh, where am I? And I didn't feel quite together as usual, and it's just one of those things. But I just absolutely gutted, because he feels fantastic. He's so fit. He was on the time. And then I just thought, because he, not green, but felt a little bit all over the place, that I just need to give him a nice ride home.
Well, it'll all come together in Mill Street.
One day. I was hoping this weekend was going to be it, but hey-ho.
Well, Felix Vogue is not able to get onto the podium. 29.84 cross-country time penalties, and that takes him out of contention at the moment. That means Jureg Lecoz guarantees himself a podium finish here, and that is hugely impressive from him, Dub.
Absolutely, but he's been hugely impressive across the weekend. 28.2 was his previous best in the first phase, at this level, and he's beaten that. His best finishing score up until now was at Blenheim, 45.9. Look what he's gone and done here. He deserves to be on the podium. Back to Gemma Tattersall.
Well, easily clear of the Wilbury Wonder Pony combination for Gemma Tattersall and Quick Look. She's on a score of 25.1. So she can afford to be 7 seconds over the time to go ahead of Jurek. Quick Look. Ears pricked as she comes to the corner. Now she's taken the slightly longer route there, Blythe.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's signalled her intent. She started out very fast, but she's taking no silly risks. So, I think that is the balance. And I would think she would be pretty good on time at the moment, but she's ridden a sensible round.
Oh, Gemma giving a bit of a roar to Quick Look, clear into the water, and she is up on the clock as things stand. So let's just remind you of the live podium at the moment. But that man is the night leader after the first 2 phases. Thibaut Villette, King de Brio, and they are about to go on course. So our leader is away. The clubhouse leader, Jureg Lecoz, Esprit de la Loge, 28.2. Felix Vogue, Calero, 29.8. Alex Bragg, Alcatraz, 30.2. So they are the top 3 as things stand. Of course, this man could top the podium here, lead from the front. He's going to need a fast run across the country. He wasn't sure that this sort of track would suit the horse, but all to play for, and one of the most experienced in the fields.
Fascinating from a tactical point of view as to whether he actually goes for it here. You heard him mentioning a post-show jumping interview that he was thinking about the Europeans. Is he trying to find out a little bit more here? Suddenly when you find yourself in first place last out, it becomes a completely different challenge. Back to Gemma.
Gemma up on the clock at the water. Had a bit of an opinion with Quick Look. Mum jumping on in the background, and plenty of vocal encouragement as well. She's off to the finish. And Gemma is having a bit of a discussion with Quick Look.
Well, look, it's a combination that we saw go inside the time at Bramham, of course, just before that last Event Rider Masters round in Arville. Now that's going to be very close, Blythe. We saw the flag there. That's good, right on the edge of what I would think I expect. That's probably going to be reviewed. Gemma obviously had that big disappointment at Arville. I expect, Nicole, that's going to be reviewed.
Well, I imagine the ground jury will look to review that. We'll confirm it in a moment. But Gemma Tattersall and Quick Look, second after the first 2 phases, coming to the final combination and so determined. They really want this win here. And things aren't looking totally smooth at the end of their round. She clears that one. She's still got 2 to jump. She can afford 7 seconds in hand to go ahead of Girac as things stand at the moment. But even that is going to be very tight. We could be looking at a French winner here. Watch Gemma down to the last fence. There's still a flag review as well. We're going to come to that in just a second. But Gemma Tattersall clears the last. And as things stand at the moment, she goes into second on the live podium. She goes behind Esprit de la Loge by the most marginal of penalties, by 0.1 of a penalty. But Girac Lacoste is on the top spot at the moment.
What a moment for Girac Lacoste to be there. But we really had to watch Gemma work there.
Well, Thibaut Villette, King de Brio, coming to the combination up at Wilbury at 11 and 12. The leader after the first 2 phases. Blythe, easily done through that.
Yep. And kicking on after he lands, so I think he is actually eyeing the win.
Well, Thibaut is a little bit down on the clock as things stand at the moment. He's going to need to motor on. Girac, of course, the one to beat on 28.2. So Girac on 28.2. And he's got a few seconds in hand. 3.2 penalties. He can be 8 seconds over to go ahead of Girac Lacoste and take the win.
8 seconds over, Nicole, but I think he would need every single one of them, even if he is eyeing the win, Blythe, and even if that tactical decision is there to go for it. I'm not positive that this horse would have the speed. He's very similarly rated to Calero, and they're both horses which can and do pick up time penalties. As I say, very similar to Felix Fogg's Calero. He was in around that 8 seconds, I think. Would that be right, Nicole? In around that zone as well. So I don't think he'll have too much to spare, Blythe.
Oh, I think the 2 horses with a big strider are more suited to open galloping tracks, whereas this is a little twisty and a bit turny, and he's over the time for sure at this stage.
Well down.
Well, this is the ground jury replay for Gemma Tattersall and Quick Look. So the ground jury will be able to review this. The joys of technology and the 15 penalty review will be able to get a really good view as to whether she has gone between the flags here. It would be 15 penalties if she's deemed not to have done.
Oh, it's quite a lot of money riding on this decision, Nicole. This is a podium place in an Event Rider Masters or not. I don't want to give you the figures, but it's quite a lot of money on someone making that call. We're back now to the leader.
I don't think they'll be making a review on that from that camera angle. They'll have a better camera angle than that before they make a decision.
Well, Thibaut Villette and King de Brio are well down on the clock as they come to the water. This is going to be an interesting round because he's going to have to make up a lot of time, and I think it could well be Girac Lacoste who takes the top spot here because he's 17 seconds down, Thibaut.
Well, what an outside victory it would be for all of the predictions, for all of the podcasts, for everything we've written this week. I can safely say we did not put up Girac Lacoste to be able to do that. He's absolutely beaten his first phase. Back to Gemma, here we are again.
Different angle for the ground jury. And this is a podium finish, riding on this for Gemma. It's going to be very close. I'm glad I'm not a member of the ground jury, but we'll let them make that decision and we'll confirm it for you as soon as it does come through. Thibaut Villette, King de Brio at the end of their round. This was the fence that Gemma had the problems, and Thibaut much closer through there. Just track their progress with the SAP map that was on your screen a moment ago. And the live podium as things stand at the moment, but Thibaut Villette is not going to be able to overtake Girac Lacoste, who could well be heading on towards his first ever Event Rider Masters win here. Thibaut coming through the final combination, of course, Girac on 28.2. Thibaut about to pass that. And Thibaut Villette heads towards home. He has 2 to go, but the win will go to France, but it will go to the young and aspiring up-and-comers, Jireg Lecos and Esprit de la Loge, who have climbed the leaderboard and impressed so much here. Thibaut Villette picking up time penalties across the country, but still a clear jumping round. They finish on 36.8 in the top 10. But my goodness, what a dramatic cross-country round we have for you. We're still waiting for that confirmation on Gemma Tattersall, but that is the young man who has just absolutely exploded onto the top level this season. This, the horse that he competes at top level, only stepped up to the level at Blenheim 8 and 9-year-olds last year, Blythe. Inexperienced 9-year-old. This is a world-class combination.
Very, very nice horse and very well ridden. So some combination to look forward to for the future, for sure.
Well, Jireg is on the top spot at the moment, and this is still ongoing. The Gemma Tattersall discussion with our ground jury as to whether she has missed a flag at fence 21B. It would cost her a podium position if she is deemed to have missed that flag. The ground jury will review it. The ground jury will be able to make that decision, and we are waiting for that to be confirmed.
I mean, to go back to Jireg Lecos for a moment, 29.9 with Enzo van Venhoff was their personal best in the first phase. You know, they've gone and beaten that. They've then kept the poles up, and then 45.9 was what they had done at this level. They've only 2 runs at this level before today, and to go and deliver that performance.
Well, it is a huge performance from Jireg, but the news just come through that Gemma Tattersall has been judged as clear down at fence 21B, so she will not be penalised, and it will be a podium finish for her here with Quick Look. She's been 4th for the last 2 years, and she will be able to take that spot in 2nd place in 2019. So Gemma, there was a little bit of a tense moment there while the ground jury just reviewed all of the footage, made sure they were absolutely sure that she had been judged as clear, the joys of technology, and she will go into 2nd place. Felix Vogue will go down to 3rd, and Alex Bragg, well, he was on the podium here 12 months ago, but disappointment for him in 4th, perhaps so close to a podium finish, but a career best for Alcatraz. So what a day we have enjoyed. The cross country has been full of thrills and spills, and can I just say, not quite a dressage competition here.
No, look, you're picking this up wrong. I didn't say it was going to be a dressage competition. I said the first phase would be the most influential, and I stick by that, because you had a very, very high show jumping clear rate, and you had a very, very high jumping clear rate. While you did see drama and excitement, you're still up in the 70s of the amount of people, 70% of the amount of people who jump clear. But a very, very exciting, because it was spread all over in terms of treason. Oh my God. Anyway,
let's take a look at that final leaderboard for you here. Leg 4 of the Event Rider Masters. It is a win for the home nation. Jireg Lecos and Esprit de la Loge, the up-and-coming superstars of the eventing world, at 28.2, absolutely superb, finishing on their dressage score. And in 2nd place, Gemma Tattersall, Quick Look, just a few cross-country time penalties, agonisingly close to a win herself. Felix Vogue, a good performance from him with Calero, and he is in 3rd, completing the podium. Alex Bragg, a winner here 12 months ago, climbed from 16th after dressage to finish in 4th, just ahead of Arnaud Poitou. Janelle Price, well, she'll extend a series lead over Chris Burton after that very good performance for 6th with Refine de Rev, and a little bit of disappointment for Bill Levitt, but good series points. A little bit of a what could have been weekend. Tom Crisp, excellent performance from him with Liberty and Glory. They finished just outside the top 10, and also an eye-catcher, Tiziana Rollini and Toubli de Rouet, who are the ones really catching the eye on their Event Rider Masters debut for them this weekend. Tom Mcewen and he CHF Coolizer, watch out for that horse in the future. Huge disappointment for Sarah Cohen and Treason, who had those 20 penalties, as did Tim Price and Falco, both well placed. Massive drama here, and it will have had a real effect on the series leaderboard. So let's take a look at that, because actually it was Chris Burton who led coming into leg 4 in Jardy. He couldn't compete because Lawtown Chloe had a little bit of travel sickness coming through. So it is Janelle Price who goes to the top of the series podium. 67 points for her. Bill Levitt in 2nd with 60 points. He extends a lead up there as well. And Chris Burton still well in contention with 54. But look at that, Jireg Lecos, he is in with a series contention shout this year now, because he has thrown himself right into the mix here with our Veal and De Jardy performances. Huge from him, and others to keep an eye on, Michael Young and Tim Price as well. So that is the series standings, and we've no doubt that Mill Street and Lignières will be just as dramatic. So that is how things have played out here in Jardy. It has been full of dramatics. We hope you've enjoyed all of the cross-country action. The crowds have been enjoying it all down there at the podium. And let's go down to Hannah.
Well, Nicole, we're all exhausted. It has been action-packed down here on the cross-country course. The French have come out in their hundreds to watch all of the action unfold, and it hasn't disappointed. And what a different podium we have. We've great to see some new faces here making their ERM debut and making it onto the podium. Let's go to third place, Felix Vogt. Felix, congratulations. What an incredible event you've had.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I have a pretty good horse. It was his first outing again after a big event, and I didn't expect that when I came here. So many good riders, and absolutely happy.
Well, very congratulations. Second place, Gemma Tattersall. Gemma, whew, we've had our heart in our mouths for you all weekend. You really put quick look through her paces. There was definitely some verbal communication going on the cross-country course, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a lot of determination there, to be honest, Hannah. It gave me a bit of a heart attack towards the end of the course. I lost my steering and for some reason, but anyway, we managed to finish and somehow stay vaguely between the flags. 1 second, but still, I'm very proud of her, and we're still on the podium, very happy.
Just 0.1 of a mark off first place with Gireg. I mean, you're there or thereabouts, aren't you, Gemma?
Yeah, that was my badly ridden flying change, wasn't it now? So that was me that let the horse down, really. But she's put in a very good performance this weekend. I'm very proud of her.
Well, I think you both have. Congratulations, Gemma. And on the top of the podium, a man who I still think looks a little shocked by the whole thing, Gireg Lacoste. Congratulations.
Thank you. I can't believe it. My horse was amazing from the dressage to the end of the cross country, just so good. And only 9 years old, but so honest and so good. Very happy.
We were watching the other riders go, and you couldn't believe you were sitting on the top of the podium, and each one, there was a run out, there was something else, and your face just got more and more shocked. And can we hope to see you at more ERM events?
Yes, I think so now.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations, Gireg. Gireg Lacoste. And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the official prize giving for leg 4 of the Event Rider Masters 2019 here at the wonderful Haras De Jardy. To present third place, please welcome Jim O'Toole, CEO of the Event Rider Masters. Receiving prize money of €9,500, riding Calero, owned by Jürgen Vogt, representing Switzerland, it's Felix Vogt. And now to present second place, please welcome Caroline Nexon, Sport and Communication Manager here at Haras De Jardy. Receiving prize money of €13,500, riding Quick Look, owned by the Pebbles Syndicate, representing Great Britain, Gemma Tattersall. And now please welcome Emmanuel Feltez, President of Haras De Jardy, to present the winner of leg 2 of the Event Rider Masters 2019. Prize money of €18,000. Riding Esprit de la Loge, owned by Frédéric Grant, representing France, it's Gireg Lacoste. And the owner of Gireg's horse will also receive a 2-night stay in the Monarch Hotel in Ireland. Compliments of the Monarch Elite Event Horse Sales.
Well, what a weekend we have enjoyed here at Haras De Jardy. We hope you've enjoyed all of the action alongside with us, but it is a young Frenchman who tops the podium. Remember the name, Gireg Lacoste and Esprit de la Loge. Gemma Tattersall in second, and in third, Felix Vogt and Calero on his Event Rider Masters debut. An absolute absolute pleasure here. We hope you've enjoyed all of the action, and we hope that you'll enjoy us in Mill Street as well. Join us then for leg 5 of the 2019 series, the 24th and the 25th of August. A huge thank you to all of our guests. We'll see you in Mill Street.
You can see this battle in a man, a fight to the finish, we can war it to the end if you like, cause you and them see that time's not a thing here when you've been blessed and born to the life. See me, I got a sample of the plan on a 4K image, you can see me spitting bars on the mic. I always go hard, so you better go home, cause I heard you saying that I'm wrong when I'm right. See the flash of the lights, see the ding of the bell, for the bright from the gun and I'm gone. You best believe that I know where I'm from, see the man them already know that it's on. Whatever the weather, I keep it together, I keep getting better, and nobody on this planet can tell me otherwise. Open up your eyes, you better
Clear round number 11, Gemma Tattersall, the one to beat as things stand.
Sit on the stage, ready to go. You don't know me, I'm the winner. This is when the game calm, me, I'm the beginner. I'll be sit on the stage, ready to go. The way that I know you don't know me, I'm the winner. This is when the game calm, me, I'm the beginner.
Grant representing France. It's